Congratulations, rookie. You have encountered 50 monster girls thus far. And so, it is with high honor that I bestow you the Silver Monster Girl Hunter Medal. You'll still be a rookie to me, but with this, you are officially a hunter. It doesn't mean you can just hunt any monster girl, only the ones you've seen. We've still got a long journey ahead of us. So how about we sit and watch the journey that you've accomplished so far. So grab a drink and grab some snacks as I present to you Monster Girl Hunting 1 through 50. Hey, you there. You're the newbie that wants to be a Monster Girl Hunter. Come along now, take a seat. I got some explaining to do. Easy now. No need to get too wily. You need to save your energy for what you're about to encounter out there in the field. You do realize, Monster Girl hunting ain't as easy as it seems. It ain't just running around having your way with them as you please. They are dangerous, and will suck the life out of you if you ain't careful. One misstep, and you'll lose your leg. Your love sausage if you are dense in the head. Well, as your instructor, I can't teach you to deal with them all, but I will teach you how they operate. This involves what they eat, where they live, and how they mate. Say, you look to be a fine fellow. No doubt you'll attract them girls with ease. For a newbie like you will encounter the most common monster girl there is. We call this one the succubus. Oh, don't look so fraught with fear. As long as you learn all that this encyclopedia has to offer, you'll be a fine monster girl hunter. Everyone, settle down. Newbie here is gonna learn about the succubus way of life. Thank you. Now, where was I? Alright, the succubus. The succubus. Its family, the succubus. It's a fiend-type monster. Its habitat, the monster realm. Its nature is lustful, and it feasts on the essence of human men. The succubus is a higher-order fiend, in possession of potent abilities. Succubi tend to be found in the monster realm, though the monster realm is not the only place they are found. They are known to take human form and infiltrate human settlements. In the previous Overlord's reign, succubi were monsters of intermediate status, but their position has risen considerably since the ascendance of the new Overlord. Under her influence, all monsters now look like women, and can feed on the essence of humans. But even before the current Overlord, succubi took the appearance of women, and lived by feeding on the essence of human men. There is a considerable degree of variation in their appearance to accommodate the range of passions among men, from voluptuous succubi to those more diminutive in form. However, they all share a lascivious beauty that excites the desire of men. As in appearance, there is great individual variation in personality, but all possess a faithful dedication to lust and desire. Succubi are imbued with powerful magic and use it almost exclusively to seduce men. When a succubus is drawn to a particular man, she applies a range of methods such as her seductive magic, or inviting figure to draw him to engage her in sexual intercourse and gather his essence. Only the most strong-willed of men have any hope of escaping the wiles of succubi. If a succubus has acquired a man's essence and finds him to her taste, she will carry him off to the home of the succubi in the monster realm. Men, however, are not the only humans subjected to the hunger of succubi. Succubi also seek out human women, inject her with mana during sex, and turn her into a succubus like themselves. A human woman who has recently turned into a succubus is known as a lesser succubus. But it is also not only women who are turned into monsters. Succubi also inject mana into their male partners while mating. When a man is exposed to mana, his libido swells and he produces large quantities of essence for the succubus. After a brief yet intense transformation, his humanity is overpowered and he becomes a being called an incubus, and lives on the mana acquired through copulation with the succubus. Once this occurs, the man is presumably doomed to spend eternity in sexual congress with the succubus. The rise of the new Overlord has resulted in a change in values. Monsters previously vile and combative have uniformly become wanton and lustful sex fiends, while beastmen, when in heat, now seek the pleasures of men. Now that copulation with human men is monsterkind's highest priority, their arts to seduce and pleasure men have often come to take on a greater significance than their raw fighting strength. this shift in monstrous character as mentioned earlier, a wide range of monsters have followed the example of the succubus and now take deepest joy in the act of mating with human men. All of these changes are ultimately owed to the fundamental nature of the succubus, and it can be well said that the succubus is the modern era's foremost representation of monster kind. So that there is the story of the succubus. You got everything? Sure you do. Now go out there and try not to get the life sucked out of you. I need your business. I feel like I should have told them about the lesser succubus. Oh well, they'll be fine, I suppose. Hey, you survived, newbie. Welcome back. A little worse for wear, though. What the hell happened to you? Was it a lesser succubi, perhaps? Stumbling into one on your journey to find a real bona fide succubus? From your face, I've hit the nail on the head, haven't I? Hey, at least you're in one piece. Good job, newbie. You even dealt with the local succubus, too. Couldn't have done it any better myself. Well, good if I'm the monster girl trainer. But don't get too cocky. Lesser succubi tend to be weaker than their full counterparts. No, don't give me that look. We'll go ever deal with them today. You know how many folk lost their wives after they turned to the lesser succubi? I've counted at least 6. All became monster girl hunters to search for a cure. Poor bastards. No known cure for them. Ah, well, more money to train more newbies. Where was I? Right, their history. Hey, tavern folks, quiet down, will ya? Shame our training building got trampled by a herd of minotaurs in heat. On to your next quarry. The lesser succubus. Its family being the succubus. It's a fiend type, much like its real counterpart. Its habitat, unknown. Its nature is lustful, and its diet is the essence of human men. Same like the succubus, but less. When a succubus injects a human woman with mana, she is thrust onto the path of her transformation into a succubus. Her first experiences are marked by a surging receptivity to carnal passion and pleasure. She will often be parched for the moisture of essence. Though a woman who has only just become a monster may still have vestiges of her human values, her monstrous body will flush with longing for a man, her hunger demolishing her frail human psyche. Thus, uninhibited, she will seek out a man and attack him. At that first taste of magical pleasure, her first feast of masculine essence, her human values crumble and becomes a monster, body and soul, drowned in the pursuit of the pleasure offered by the male form. Lesser succubi appear differently than their more mature sisters. Their horns are shorter, having just sprouted, and their bodies are lighter in pigmentation. They often have translucent wings and tails, and fur on some areas of the body. Lesser succubi use mana to transform their bodies to become more enticing and seductive to men. The fur serves to protect their bodies during the process. As the lesser succubi continues to collect human essence, her small horns, wings, and tail grow large, and her heart becomes more and more lustful, until she has become a full succubus. Even after she has fully matured, she retains her basic personality and memories from when she was a human, but her values change completely into those of a succubus, and she will not hesitate to milk men for both pleasure and essence. There is no known way to restore a woman who has been turned into a succubus to humanity. If your lover is turned into a succubus, do not attempt to save her. Instead, flee immediately, unless you wish to be carried off into the monster realm to spend eternity with those sensual and less vicious fiends. There, you happy now? Won't have any trouble next time you encounter something, right? Oh yeah, one more thing. Try not to encounter a widow of a lesser succubus. Bastards attack you off sight with no regard for their own safety. Run along now. I got other newbies to train. Come back alive and maybe I'll teach you how to bed a slime. Yes, you can bed a slime. Now go on, get. I've got newbies to train and an arachne to get home to. Hey, took you long enough, newbie. Didn't think you would actually go somewhere now, did ya? This here is a cave. Exciting stuff, I know. Listen, the monster girl you'll be hunting is deeper inside, though that doesn't mean you should drop your guard anytime soon. You're going to be dealing with a slime today. Nothing too fancy, just the simple blue ones will do. While the succubi give you a challenge, slimes are difficult in the fact that they are numerous. You rookies will take on quest after quest of slime subjugation to the point where being sticky is commonplace. You can find them anywhere, but this cave is mainly used by the Monstergirl Hunting Association, or MGHA for short. That's where you get most of your quests. Now let's get going. I only have this cave for a scheduled time to train you. Keep your wits about you. I'm going to explain the nature of the slime here. Soon enough, you'll find my explanations commonplace. Now, where was I? Right. The livelihood of slimes. Slimes are a semi-solid life form. Their habitats are various, including plains, grasslands, and caves. Their natures are simple and honest. Their diet, however, consists of semen, sweat, and the saliva of human men. The slime is a semi-solid monster that dwells in large numbers on grasslands and plains, typically near towns, though they can occasionally be found in other regions. Most especially because they often wander about in search of human men. They are capable of expanding and contracting their blue, semi-solid bodies at will to assume a variety of shapes and are intelligent enough to speak, though their thoughts are simple. When a slime discovers a man, she stretches out her fluid body, entangling his with hers to keep him from moving. She extracts his semen and other bodily fluids in a manner uncannily reminiscent of sexual intercourse. A slime's body is capable of milking the semen from a man under almost any condition, enveloping his body with a liquid pleasure while she does. As a slime stores the essence she gathers, surplus nourishment not needed to form her womanly body pools at her feet. When this surplus accumulates to a certain point, it splits off, forming a new slime that looks just like the original. This clone can only think of adjusting nourishment and immediately joins in the feast. She will remain with her sister until she is comfortable enough to set out on her own and seek her own prey. The simple structure of slimes makes them highly adaptable, but also sensitive, and thus quite susceptible to mana and their environments. Changes resulting from these factors have led to the birth of a number of variants, including the high-order red slimes, the hypertrophic mutation known as the queen slime, the bubble slime, which is strongly influenced by her habitat, and the dark slime. It is said that factors such as long-term mating with a single human man, or a change of habitat, can change a slime to another monster in the slime family. Make sense? Good. There you have it. Not too hard to deal with, they're just hard to grab. Yeah, it's boring to deal with the weaker monsters, but you gotta harden your body for what lies in your future. Anyway, find a blue slime in this cave, subjugate it, and report back to the outside of this cave. I'll be napping at the entrance. And if you find a queen slime, run for your life. You aren't equipped to deal with those yet, and one just so happens to live in here. Good luck, and don't become a pile of bones in this cave, like the other unfortunate rookies. Guess what? It's a new day, rookie, and a new slime to take on. As I mentioned yesterday, there exist many variants of slime girls. What you're looking for today is the one known as a red slime. It's a much easier catch for a slime, despite it being physically the same as a blue slime. Don't let that fool you, however. They're still slime girls nonetheless. As for tactics against them, you could probably just use the same ones you used as yesterday. Though be gentle, they are monster girls. It's not like all of them are mindless monsters from the Dark Ages. You gotta have some charm and tact if you want to be a good hunter. Else you won't get any, bow chicka wow wow, if you know what I mean. Now, onto that part you enjoy, rookie. The entry on red slimes. As you can guess, they're almost exactly the same as a blue slime, with their type being a semi-solid life form. Their habitat are various, including plains, grasslands, and caves. Their natures are simple, yet not as honest as the blue slime. Their diet is the semen, sweat, and saliva of human men. The red slime, with its crimson, elastic body, is a higher-order slime, much like the slime. They dwell on plains and grasslands near human settlements, though in smaller numbers mixed among common slimes in similar habitats. The red slime is superior to the slime in physical and mental ability. In particular, their emotional capacity is quite sensitive, and some individuals are so emotively complex that they appear deeply human. While slimes have a strong tendency to act according to instinct, red slimes possess some semblance of reason and are capable of communicating their thoughts clearly. Red slimes feed on and desire the delicacy of human semen in the same manner as slimes. They are somewhat more violent than common slimes. If they see a human man, they can be expected to attack aggressively and mate with them. Though their intelligence and emotional condition is more finely attuned, they are still slimes, mind and body amuck with pleasure. Despite this, and despite their theoretical superiority, red slimes still considered less dangerous than slimes because of their emotional complexity, which often leads them to allow their prey to escape. This choice may be related to their refined selectivity regarding prey, pride in their greater power, or embarrassment. Red slimes reproduce in the same way as slimes, by splitting off from surplus pools of nutrients into new individuals. Relationships between the original slime and her subsequent sister clones are more clearly defined than among slimes, though the drive to feed upon their prey is still overwhelming. Thus, in the end, the behavior of the red slime does not differ all that greatly from that of the common slime after all. See? I left out that bit about their aggression. Gotta keep some facts hidden away so you actually listen to me. Anyway, it's the same quest as yesterday. Go in the cave, subjugate a red slime, and come back out with some evidence. That evidence being whether you are covered in red slime gel. I'll meet you at the entrance. Good luck, rookie. You're already notches above the newbies I've seen. Well done, rookie. Looking at what you've accomplished, I can only say you're one hell of a person. If you survive this long, you're still better than most rookies. They chicken out at the succubus or slime, yet you survived. You're finally ready to take on the mother of all slimes. And I mean that literally. The quest for today is to subdue the queen slime and rescue its husband before it becomes a slime kingdom. We will get to what a slime kingdom is later on. Don't fret, this mission I'll be assisting you. And I'll save you if it gets too dangerous. If us instructors didn't do this for some of the tougher monster girls, we would have a lack of hunters protecting places. Let's go, rookie! My greatsword is itching for a fight. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I still need to explain to you what a queen slime is. As you can expect, the queen slime is exactly the same as a blue slime, but not a red slime. It's a semi-solid life form. Its habitat is various, including plains, grasslands, and caves. Its nature is simple and honest. Its diet is exactly the same. As you can guess, it's the semen, sweat, and saliva of human men. The queen slime is a mutation known as the queen of the slime family, though they look like a collection of several slimes huddled together, with a queen at its center and several discrete retainers around its periphery. The queen slime is in fact a single monster, however. A queen slime is made when the dividing mechanism of a common slime is defective, unable to split off its excess accumulation of nourishment. The central body and peripheral bodies differ in abilities, but are under the governance of the queen and share the same awareness, thoughts, and memories. Like other slimes, queen slimes feed on the essence of human men by wrapping their prey in their highly viscous bodies for sex and feeding. However, the central body, or queen, is very slow-moving, perhaps as a result of the local hypertrophy of her body. Therefore, her retainers move aggressively to secure her prey. Due to her physical size, a queen slime is far more voracious than a common slime. When a man is caught by her retainers, he can expect to spend eternity at the center of her harem. A queen slime who has mated with a man for a long time develops as if she were a village of slimes, an entire entity known as a slime village, or, if it's big enough, a slime kingdom. Her peripheral bodies rapidly grow more intelligent as she swells in size. Groupings of these bodies take on separate roles, from knights and magicians who protect the queen and her man, to hunters who procure food for the man, to merchants who trade with other races. As the queen slime grows still more intelligent and her bodies multiply, some even take on roles with no clear function, such as pleasure slaves made singularly for the man's delight. Regardless of how intelligent or numerous a queen slime becomes, the principal intent of her actions remains the same: to dine, or mate, to her heart's content, and to expand her kingdom. Even the trade of the merchants is said mostly to be a venture aimed at obtaining drugs and equipment to boost a man's potency. Because a queen slime only mates with the man she considers her husband, One may think that a slime kingdom that has a man at its core is safe to enter. However, this is by no means the case, as other monsters have been known to take up residence in a slime kingdom, especially because it is difficult to distinguish a slime kingdom's peripheral body from a common slime. You got that, rookie? Alright, so the plan here is you subdue the core as fast as possible and rescue the poor husband, and I'll take out any knights and magicians that may come across. Also, do not be afraid to use a weapon against monsters. Some are far too gone that intercourse can't stop them. Now let's go, rookie. We got a person to save and a slime queen to stop.
It's a bit chilly up here, ain't it? Get those legs a moving, rookie. If you can't deal with a mountain, then you have no right to be a hunter. The attack point should be up ahead, and then we can rest. For this mission, you have to subjugate a band of goblins. The hobgoblin can be dealt with later. Make sure you keep your guard up, they are quite mischievous. And before you say it, no, they are not the green boogers that people think they are. Hey, rookie, look at me. Say with me now. I don't want to carry your corpse down this friggin' mountain. And we have arrived. Alright, time to go over what goblins are. Start the fire while I explain this. My scrot is freezing. The goblin is what's known as a demi-human in the family of goblins. Their habitats are various, including caves, mountains, and human settlements. Their natures are simple but mean. They will eat anything, therefore they're omnivorous. The goblin is a small demi-human that builds villages in caves and other regions. A goblin looks diminutive, but this is in fact its adult form. Though they are small in stature, goblins have the brute strength to lift gigantic weapons, as if they're as light as a breath of air. They can be cunning, but they are fundamentally simple creatures with inconsistent sensibility. They use all their craftiness for mischief. It is common for goblins to form bands, either entirely of goblins or centered around a hobgoblin, which is what we're dealing with today. Which shows up on highways, attack human travelers, strip them of all their belongings, and in the case of men, rape them. If a goblin is drawn to a man she finds on one of her raids, she may carry him off to her abode and make him her husband. Not all goblins are so vicious. Many interact with humans quite amiably, such as goblin merchants who bring valuable ores and crafts from their villages to human settlements to sell. Still, one must remember that they are goblins. If a goblin encounters a man who suits her taste, she is likely to seduce him if given a chance. Aside from their mischief, a tendency to rape men, though, goblins are very personable and talkative, meaning that there are many such goblin merchants. When dealing with them, a man is often given the option to pay with his body in place of cash. However, this is not recommended, as it usually results in him being carried away forever. There you have it. Nice fire, by the way. Should be enough till we can finish this mission. Well, I guess you could say you are no longer a rookie, but rather my apprentice. It's a title you should be proud of. Becoming a monster girl hunter apprentice is no easy feat. It gives me more time to train saps like you. Soon you'll be a certified monster girl hunter, and you'll gain one of these books for yourself. The reason we don't give them out is because it costs a bunch to make them, and we don't want to risk rookies destroying them. Alright, get your sword ready, and your sword ready. We got goblins coming from the north. You're a friggin' idiot, rookie. You almost got yourself taken away by goblins. Now don't look at me. Chin up, deep breath. We still have the hobgoblin to take care of. Remember that one? Follow its trail. It'll lead us straight to her. On the double, I'll explain them on the way. Look alive, rookie. You gotta break this time. As we know, hobgoblins are the same as goblins in every single thing. Their family type, their type of monster. Let's see, what else? The habitat, you know that one. Mind and food, yeah, you got it. We got no time to spare. Let's get straight into the information. The goblin is a mutation of the goblin, with extreme swelling in one area of its body. Specifically, it is distinguished by its large bosom, a trait that's usually not found in goblins. Although, like goblins, hobgoblins are simple in personality, though they also tend to be dreamy.
with a demeanor that is decidedly calmer than that of goblins. Hobgoblins are the rare offspring of goblins who delight in their birth and venerate them. When goblins form bands to attack men, they will always defer to a hobgoblin as their leader, and when they succeed in capturing a man, they cede the right of first copulation to her out of respect. However, perhaps because of their engorged bosom draws so deeply from any nourishment they consumed, they are simpler and less clever than common goblins. Also, the size of their ample breasts may also be the cause of their clumsiness. When such bands chase men, it is common to see the hobgoblin left behind, tripping and falling over herself. Despite their tendency to fumble, their brute strength is more than fantastic than a goblin's. And they can usually swing around a huge weapon, and when they do succeed in catching a human man, they use the strength to push him hard against the ground and wring him of his essence. It is highly unlikely that a man would have the physical strength to free himself from a goblin's embrace. In the process of copulation, the hobgoblin's large bosom weighs on the man, pressing and shifting against his body to give both of them pleasure, as her breasts are incredibly sensitive. Even his breath upon her skin is enough to make her arch in bliss. Thus, when a man touches her breast, her body is assailed by ecstasy like a humming electric current. If he seizes and kneads her breast, she will be so overcome by the sensation that she will experience multiple climaxes from that alone. She will lose all awareness and surrender her everything to the man. If at this time the man withdraws his hands, she will panic at the abrupt absence of pleasure, much as if addicted, and will desperately rub her chest against the man, tears in her eyes as she begs him to continue. Thus, even in coitus, the hobgoblin can be easily manipulated by a man. There is no reason to be complacent, as the other goblins will surely have been watching with arousal, and will be quite ready to attack in their stead. By this point, the reader may have observed that the hobgoblin is in fact inferior to the common goblin in just about every regard, except strength, and you, rookie, are the reader. Alright? Why then, one might ask, do goblins so revere hobgoblins? The goblins themselves provide a rather incredible syllogism to explain this. 1. Hobgoblins have large breasts. 2. Large breasts are amazing. 3. Therefore, hobgoblins are amazing. Can't. You just can't. Can't fight back. This fearsome logic must be said to be true to the nature of these simple creatures. But when one thinks about it more carefully, it is true that, given their buoyance of copulation with human men place among monsters such as goblins, large breasts may be quite an effective tool in mating. Perhaps this advantage is sufficient to compensate for all of the hobgoblin's shortcomings. Got it, rookie? Use it to your advantage. Keep that information on hand, rookie. This is gonna be a tough fight. You will be outmatched via strength, but your greatest strength is that brain of yours, and those hands. And don't let your eyes gravitate towards her chesticles. Its squishiness will lure you in, and soon you'll be trapped, unable to do anything. But don't fret, because you want that to happen. As I said, she'll arch in bliss when you touch her breast. Now get to it, rookie. I'll cover the pathway so none of the goblins will return to help their leader. You have a few seconds. Go. Oh, hello, newcomer. I'll be instructed today. Apologies that the other one couldn't come today. He has some wounds to attend to. Something about spiders and hormones. I hope you haven't gotten used to his, violent tendencies. But anyways, today you'll learn about the demi-human species of werewolves. Not the kind that turn under the light of a full moon, but rather those that still hold human physique while having wolven attributes. And while my co-worker deals with more physical on-hands teaching, and I do apologize for that, we can just go through the book today. And then I'll have you go accept a quest that deals with this exact monster. If you're ready, then let's begin. We can already tell that werewolves are the beastman types, but their families are the werewolves. Their habitats are forest, mountains, and etc. Their nature is violent and loyal. Their diet are carnivorous. The werewolf is a beastman with wolf characteristics. They live in a pack and are intelligent but violent, using their strong legs and unimaginable stamina to run about forests and mountains, hunting for prey. When a werewolf finds a man she likes, she unleashes her base desire upon him. Her style of copulation is wolf-like and bestial in its violence. True to her raging desire howling within her, she slams her hips against the man relentlessly. Considering that her stamina far exceeds that of humans, it goes without saying that 1 or 2 couplings will not be enough to satisfy her. A man caught by a werewolf can expect to release his essence into her again and again until her seemingly insatiable need has been met. It should also be noted that as wild werewolves live in packs, if one fancies a man enough to bring him into the pack, he will never have to face a large number of monsters who will have sex with him, one after another, for every night. When werewolves enter heat, they become even more aggressive and, according to reports, may encroach upon human settlements in search of human men. The bodies of werewolves in heat throb constantly with longing for a man's seed, and they obey that longing by mating day and night. It is thought that this itch continues unabated until the period of heat ends or the werewolf conceives. With all this in mind, there can be no doubt that werewolves are quite savage monsters. However, there are cases in which a werewolf comes to recognize a man as above her. For example, if he defeats her or if she falls deeply in love with him, in such cases the werewolf becomes extremely loyal to the man she has acknowledged as her master. When mating with him becomes like a fawning dog, and she begs for him for his seed so that she can bear his child. A man who overcomes a number of werewolves can become the alpha of the pack. All of the werewolves in the pack then come seeking his sex so they can bear his children. Thus, he must be prepared to humor them all as they slink up to him to mate. A werewolf may attack and bite a human woman. The werewolf's man enters through the wound and the woman herself becomes a werewolf. Formerly human women who have become werewolves tend to be gentler than monsters who have been werewolves from birth. They recognize their original family and lovers as their packmates and masters and may continue to live with them. However, there are 2 issues that could be considered problematic. First, they bite any woman in their families and turn them into werewolves as well. Second, like werewolves from birth, they exhibit powerful carnal desire for the men they consider their husbands, causing them to go into heat and seek a seed. Because these women were originally human, it is more difficult for them to control their animal urges. Thus, their new masters may find themselves with unexpected carnal duties demanded of them by beasts with libido several times that they had as humans. So, in turn, a contest of stamina will not be the way you want to go with these ones. You'll need to use their wolf-like nature against them. And as for your quest, one of the local townsfolk has a wife that recently turned. You must capture her and return her to him before she turns anyone else. Good luck, and hopefully we meet again sometime. So, you're probably wondering why we are here. Well, the next listed monster in your book is going to be the werecat. So, we're at a werecat cafe. Strange, I know, but they aren't really as dangerous as they used to be. Don't get me wrong, they can still be dangerous when wild, but mostly they're domesticated nowadays. See? That one is nibbling on your leg. It's dangerous. In all seriousness, there are not many cases of attacks on people by werecats, so enjoy a cup of tea, and let's get this listed in your book. It should be noted that werecats' habitats are in forests, but they also live close by human settlements. Their natures are self-centered and capricious, as we'll find out later. Their diets are omnivorous, but they do prefer meat over all other types of food. The werecat is a beastman with feline characteristics. They use their supple bodies and keen physical prowess to pounce on prey from the shadows. Many live in forests, though some individuals take up residence near human communities to better stalk men. Werecats are quite capricious in personality. It is not unusual for one to act friendly one moment and then sulk the next. Still, they speak mostly loudly through their actions, and less so in words. When their tails are erect and their eyes averted, one can surmise that despite the lack of interest they seem to be implying, they actually want to play with the man. Her spite will quickly subside if he entertains her sexually, as a werecat can always be counted on to be eager to mate with a man that she is fond of. Under most circumstances, werecats are not particularly dangerous monsters, but they become extremely violent during their regular periods of heat. If one sees a human man who is to her taste while in heat, she will not hesitate to approach him and draw him into her embrace. As they tend to develop affection for the human with whom they have had sex with, they are likely to continue sex of that same man they have had sex with after their heat subsides. Longer contact and intercourse continues, the longer and more frequent the werecat's period of heat becomes. One should, therefore, be aware of the excessive pampering of a werecat's sexual solicitations, as that may cause her to enter a state of continuous heat which cannot be managed. When werecats inhale the scent of a plant known as a silvervine, they become intoxicated, lose their grip on reason, and for a time become even more violent than they are during heat. Though they are usually unpredictable at times such as these, they become single-minded in their drive to cling to and mate with a man. It is not unusual to find one rubbing its flesh body against a man in supplication for sexual pleasure. And there you have it. I find that you understood that. Demi-humans are quite easy to deal with due to their relations to humans. Well, we can enjoy some time here before you go. It's not every day that you get a break as a monster girl hunter. The more violent and dangerous types will leave you winded and tired, and then you have to get up the next day to deal with another. You either become an instructor, or you become a professional hunter. There is no third option. Alright, let's just make this one quick. This is my least favorite, and also it's kind of one of the lamest monster girls. Anyway, welcome to the MGHA Registered Petting Zoo, where we contain some of the more docile of monster girls. It's mainly full of demi-humans or monsters that go docile after a male has captured and domesticated them. And today's subject is the were-rabbit, who can die of loneliness. Yep, that's the only thing interesting about them. Well, I guess that and the supposed tale of Wonderland. I'll explain later. Just don't get clingy to any of them, or else you'll have to adopt one. You understand? Ready? Here we go. So to explain it, the were-rabbit belongs to the rabbit family, and it's a beastman type monster girl. Its habitat is grasslands. Its nature is cheerful, hasty, and lonely. Its diet is herbivorous. It favors grasses and vegetables, oddly. The were-rabbit is a beastman with rabbit characteristics, found in large numbers in grassy regions. They are more gentle than other beastmen and friendly to humans. Most individuals have a bright and curious disposition, often reflected by their tendency to run and hop about restlessly. The were-rabbits are relatively good-natured. This does not mean that they are not dangerous. Unlike most beastmen, they have no particular period of heat, instead remaining in heat year-round. A man who submits to a were-rabbit's friendly advances will win her favor with her impulsive character. She will express by drawing him to the ground in lusty play. A were-rabbit's disposition and appearance belie her violent mating habits. Once a were-rabbit has caught a man, she'll mount him much like a rabbit, riding him roughly to the peak of her climax. A man may attempt to run from the excited were-rabbit, but his chances of escape are low due to were-rabbit's swift, strong legs. It has been said, though not confirmed, that some were-rabbits experience such profound loneliness that it is possible for them to perish from it. When one takes a liking to a man, she wishes to be with him at all times, pressing her body to his. For intercourse is the most direct and intimate way for her to be near him. The time she spends with her man is the happiest of her life. There is a legend that says if a human follows a were-rabbit discreetly as she meanders and hops about, they will eventually find themselves in a place called Wonderland. This realm is said to be a curious plane in which monsters in similar states of constant arousal accost men for frenzied sexual activity at all times. However, no one has ever returned from the fabled Wonderland, so it is impossible to confirm the veracity of this tale. Indeed, without being detected by the keen hearing of her large ears, it is far more likely that she will draw a man into her arms than lead him to Wonderland. Alright, that's about it for this session. Let's get out of this section and look at some other monster girls who are far more pleasing. Quietly now, they're known to mount you, so if you move slowly, we can get out of here without having an incident. It has been a long day. I could use a nap. Wouldn't you say the same, newcomer? Let's just get this day finished. We have one more trip to make while we're still at the petting zoo. It's the were-sheep exhibit that's just up ahead. And be careful not to fall asleep. You'll be fined as you are not classified as a hunter and therefore not exempt from the sleep fee. Once you've been taught about 20 monster girls though, you'll be awarded with a bronze hunter certification and the special privileges along with it. Now, let's see what the book has to offer in regards to were-sheep before the day ends. As you may have already guessed, the were-sheep is a beastman type monster girl, with their family being the sheep family. Their habitat are grasslands and also human settlements. Their natures are peaceful, though they can sometimes be violent and lustful. Their diet, as with all sheep, is herbivorous. The were-sheep is a beastman with lamb-like characteristics robed in a fluffy coat. Their behavior is as soft as their appearance, perpetually sleepy and dazed. Were-sheep are often found napping and soaking up the sunlight on grasslands with the sweetest vegetation. When a were-sheep sees a man, she smiles gently with heartfelt joy and approaches him slowly. Then she softly draws him close and fondly rubs her fluffy body against his. This is the point at which a typical monster would force him to the ground, mate with him, and savor the delight of his essence. But were-sheep do nothing so sudden as they seem content simply to be near the man. However, this is in fact a were-sheep's method of attack.
The coat wreathing her body contains a soporific mana, which causes the man to become drowsy as she holds him and rubs him with her full fluffy coat. While the man's thoughts begin to cloud, she begins to remove his clothing. She peers at his exposed sex with a warm smile, guides it to between her legs, and uses her weight to sink it deeply into herself. Then she sways her hips back and forth, gently riding up and down his sex, holding him tenderly all the while. The man will be filled with sleepy pleasure, helpless in her arms, and, by the time he releases his essence into the weresheep, so lulled by her that he will drift away into slumber. Meanwhile, the weresheep herself slips into sleep, curling atop his body with his members still inside her. When the man at last awakes, he will find himself hard once more, the weresheep's loving heat readying him for a second round. The weresheep is awoken by awareness of the man's growing intermittence moving within her. She smiles sleepily at the man and resumes the rise and fall of her hips. The slow bliss of drowsy sex soon begins him to orgasm once again. The wool of weresheep is prized as a material for bedding and bedclothes, due to the soporific mana it contains. The comfortable, full-bodied bedding provides a deep and restful sleep that refreshes with just a brief nap. Because of this, the wool commands a high price, and as it grows back after being sheared, many humans raise weresheep commercially. The issue, however, is that without their sedating wool, weresheep lose the stupor of their gentle disposition. Upon the release from its soporific mana, they are likely to demonstrate their innate monstrous lust. Passion melts soft smiles into sharp grins as they force men begin beneath them to satisfy their animal urges. A naked weresheep's voracious sexual appetite cannot be sated with 1 or 2 bouts of copulation. It drives her to seek stronger and greater pleasure in essence. She will rut with men like a feverish animal, and lazy leers spread across her face as her body drinks up his seed. I think there might be some floating weirship particles in the air. Anyway, your training day is technically over, so do as you wish. I'll be right under that tree sleeping. Sorry to keep you waiting like that. I should do better as a mentor. Besides, I know how much you want to become one of the greatest monster girl hunters in the world. But remember, you gotta trace your steps. Now, let me explain this place first. Welcome to the Garden of Eden, the Monster Girl Hunting Association's #1 and premier greenhouse. This is where they contain most of the more docile, I guess you could say, species, but mainly they host the plant species such as the Alrune, the Mandragora, the Mentangos, and Dryads. Now, our subject today is actually the Alrune itself. Now, let's get to it. The room is up ahead, and let's take a look at Monster Girl number 12, the Alrune. The Alrune belongs to a family all on its own, but it still has the type of a plant. Its habitats consist of only forests. Its nature is lustful and aggressive. However, its diet is the essence of human men and the nutrients of the earth. The Alrune is a plant monster that dwells in the woods, assuming the shape of a beautiful woman and wreathed in massive petals. Alrunes rarely move, instead luring human men near with the scent of their honeyed musk. The source of the scent is a fluid called Alrune nectar. It functions as a powerful aphrodisiac and potency enhancer. When an Alrune's prey draws near, she reaches out with her creepers to ensnare the man and bring him within her petals. She then forces the man to drink deeply of her nectar and engages him in coitus, lapping up his semen with her flower-like labia. If she takes a liking to him, she keeps him firmly within the confines of her flower, as though he were a part of her, in constant copulation. Because the flower is filled with her nectar and the man is constantly immersed in it, his member remains engorged, his libido and potency never exhausting. When the weather begins to get cold, the Alrune closes her petals to take shelter until the spring. Now, if she has a man, she gives him a reserve of nutrients so that he can survive and continue to reproduce fruitfully with her. In the shelter of her furled petals, she will spend the chill months copulating furiously. The Alrune nectar not only serves as food for men captured by Alrunes, it is also prized by other monsters, especially honeybees, who attack the Alrune frequently and feed primarily upon her nectar. The honeybee enters the Alrune flower and licks and collects nectar from within her floral sex. The Alrune does not resist, as the lathing of the honeybee's mouth helps to mature the Alrune's nectar so that it gives off a cloying and more fragrant scent, which in turn makes it more effective in attracting human men. This perfume draws men towards its source, where the Alrune and the nectar-drenched honeybee lie in wait,
The two monsters assault him, and all three parties become covered in sticky nectar as they mate with sweet desperation. Don't fret about the Alrunes in this garden. All of them are domestic in a sense. And what I mean about that, they've already captured a man that they have taken a liking to. Those hunters inside there have grown quite fond of the life they've lived up until now, so go study them. They're right there. And be careful if you encounter one in the wild. That scent's going to lure you in, and you won't be able to control yourself. What makes it worse is that honeybee pairing. Don't worry about what to do against a honeybee, we'll get to that later. If you see a honeybee and Alrune pair, you need to get out of there as quick as you can. Do not try and take them on with your current knowledge. Come on now, I know the Alrunes are fluffy and sweet smelling, but we don't have enough daytime to spend on one monster girl. Our tour is gonna end soon, so we need to get you as much information as we can before we have to leave. And I don't want to spend another day having to teach you. I gotta keep it in one day. And also, word of note, put on these headphones before we go into the next area. You're gonna need them. No, don't put them on now. You won't hear what I have to say. Okay. Listen to what I have to say first, then put on the headphones as we go over Monster Girl number 13, the Mandragora. The Mandragora, similar to its name, has the family of Mandragora. Its habitat are grasslands, forests. Its nature is timid. The diet is the essence of human men and the nutrients of the earth. The Mandragora is a plant monster with a root in the shape of a woman. The root lies buried in the ground. Only the flower on the Mandragora's head is visible above the surface. The petals exude a sweet scent to draw men near so that they will pull the Mandragora up. Once a man uproots a Mandragora, she lets out a cry shrill with magic. Her keen echoes through the man's head, forcing him to lose his reason so that he takes her immediately. Once he has penetrated her, the Mandragora wraps her legs around his hips and extends roots from her body to bind him so that he cannot escape. Even after he regains his reason, she will not release him until seeds have been produced. If he refuses the thrust, she uses her roots to pound him into her body. A Mandragora's cry affects not only the man who pulls her up, but also any humans or monsters in the area. When approaching a Mandragora habitat, one must beware of monsters that may become frenzied and violent in the wake of a Mandragora's shriek. If there are other monsters near when a man pulls up a Mandragora, they will investigate in search of an outlet for their licentious urges. A Mandragora uses up almost all of her mana through her cry. Subsequent screams do not further impair a man's reason. Thus, after being pulled up, she is powerless. Mandragoras being timid creatures by nature, they are unlikely to attack a man of her own initiative. The tips of the Mandragora's roots are prized as ingredients for powerful magical formulas such as potency potions and aphrodisiacs. Mandragoras are widely cultivated for such purposes, as the tips continue to grow as long as the Mandragora is fed essence. Mandragoras grow underground as seedlings, their developing bodies fed by the nutrients of the earth. Development of their bodies stops when they are pulled up. Thus, early picking will yield a Mandragora who is smaller in stature, as illustrated, whereas late picking will yield a ripe and full body quite dissimilar to that pictured. Now do you understand why headphones are needed? That shriek will make you lose reason, and you will end up captured by the Mandragora. It's not as bad as it seems. What is bad is that shriek will cause other monster girls to come, and that's the bad part. Now, this begins our hands-on session of this part. Go out, pick a few Mandragoras, we can use their roots for something later, or we can just, give them to the hunting association and they'll do something with them. See, now wasn't that so bad? Right. So, I have to explain this as simple as possible, but first I have to pose a question for you. Why is it that all Monster Girl hunters are specifically, if not exclusively, male? And the reason for that is because of this next Monster Girl. Now, let's not dilly-dally any too longer. Let's go over Monster Girl number 14, the Matango. The Matango is a fungus-type Monster Girl.
Its habitat is forests, its nature is mild, and its diet is the nutrients of the earth and the essence of human men. The montango is a mushroom monster that lives in damp forested areas and assumes the shape of a woman. Montangos root themselves into the ground or on trees to absorb nutrients, and are unable to move from their location. However, wood or soil-based nutrients are inadequate to keep up her vigor, and so she often appears dreamy. Montango periodically distributes spores from the gills of the mushrooms which grow upon her body. When a man inhaled these spores, they plant themselves in his body and mature into large mushrooms that possess his thoughts. He is then overcome with a pleasant dreaminess and finds himself unable to think of anything but the montango who distributed the spores. The mushrooms in his body then guide him to her so that they can copulate. Thusly, the montango harvests semen from the man through sexual intercourse. When the montango has obtained sufficient nutrition, she becomes active and copulates with greater force, releasing spores in greater quantities. After the man has copulated with her for some time, his body becomes laden with mushrooms. Soon they sprout from his flesh as they do from the montango. In this way, he becomes a mushroom man, who can think nothing of but sex with the montango. Montangos cannot reproduce by spores alone. For a new montango to be born, the spores must be inhaled by a human woman. They then control her thoughts, heighten her passion, and cause her to attack a man to harvest semen. This encourages rapid development of the mushroom in her body, and soon she becomes a montango herself. If one woman in a village inhales the spores of a montango, it is likely that the rest of the village will be subsequently infected. Though it is thought that montangos cannot move of their own volition, there have recently been sightings of montangos that, after fading deeply from men, took root in his body or in order to move by his power. Witnesses report that montangos continue to copulate with him as he moves about. And that, my dear apprentice, is why many monster girl hunters are male. We're not immune to the montango's effects. No, we still affect it in a different way. But it's because we can't turn into a monster girl that we are the best suited option to contain and protect. Much like a certain foundation, if you can recall. A new day and another monster girl. Welcome, Rookie, how are you? It's quite early in the morning, I do apologize, so if I sound off, blame that, but welcome to the Dryad Forest. It's full of trees, and only trees. Now if that seems kind of weird to you, if you understand why the Dryad Forest is full of trees, that's another case entirely. So, without further ado, Monster Girl number 15, the Dryad. The Dryad belongs to the Dryad family. Its habitats are forests, its nature is mild, gentle, and passionate. Its diet is the nutrients of the earth and the essence of human men. The Dryad is a tree-dwelling elemental. Though strictly classified as a demi-elemental, Dryads are first born as monsters. For more on elements, we'll get to that later. A Dryad spends her entire life in one tree, drying when it dies. That said, by sucking the essence of a man, she can keep her tree alive for thousands of years. Her abundant mana will protect them from fire and malignant diseases that sometimes sicken trees. Dryads are usually mild-tempered, though they are merciless to those who disturb their forests. They attack their enemies, restrain them with creepers that crawl from the ground, and fling them to any nearby monsters who are starved for sex. Dryads are highly passionate in matters of love. They are said to seduce any man they fancy, trap him in their trees, and mate with him there, in a secret house-like space carved into the heart of their wooden homes. It is in there, in thorough obscurity, that the man enjoys sweet and ardent congress with a Dryad, and the succulent wetness between her legs. After he has been trapped in the tree for some time, the man becomes part of it, unable to escape as the Dryad continues to love him, and, like his monstrous partner, unable to die until the tree withers. This may seem tragic to humans with little knowledge, but within the tree, the man never tires of the sweet, tender, and chthonic pleasure of making love to his dearest wife. Furthermore, dryads often have local communities where dryads and their husbands can visit other dryads in their trees. It is assumed that this unique tree society staves off feeling of isolation. Dryads grow considerably by imbibing the essence of men and come to exude a sugary, viscous resin from their skin. It is common for the arthropodal monsters to come lap up the resin. From outside, it looks like they're only licking the tree, but in the world of the dryad and the man who live within, an entirely different scene unfolds. The tree expands, embracing the new monster and inviting her to join the other two in a fierce three-way congress. As the tree of the dryad grows, the space enlarges, and more monsters visit. The man often enjoys daily orgies with the dryad and other monsters, until the dryad is sticky and sodden with the release of her favorite feast, the resin of her man. This forest was not an addition to the Garden of Eden. This was just built around it, so everyone who has succumbed to the dryad's love has been here for quite some time. But let's look on the bright side. You have 15 monster girls under your belt, and you have 5 more to go before you are awarded the bronze medal of monster girl hunting. So I congratulate you all. So, you may be wondering why we're back in the Owl Room section of the Garden of Eden. Well, because our monster girl lives here along with them. So, according to all known laws of aviation, there is no way a bee should be able to fly. Its wings are too small to get its fat little body off the ground. The bee, of course, flies anyway, because bees don't care what humans think is possible. I'm very sorry for all of you that you had to hear that, but today's monster girl is monster girl number 16, the honeybee. The honeybee is an arthropodal type monster girl. While still belonging to the family of bees, their habitats consist of grasslands and forests. Their natures are mild and gentle, and their diets are the nectar of flowers and owl rooms. Honeybees are an arthropodal monster known for their giant hive colonies centered around a queen bee. Honeybees who collect nectar from flowers and owl rooms are called worker bees. Additionally, when the queen has no husband, the worker bee will seek one for her among human men. When a worker bee spots a promising specimen, she flies to him and checks his suitability for the queen by copulating with him. If he proves himself worthy, she will bring him back to the hive as a potential husband for the queen. If the queen approves of him, he becomes her husband. If not, his ownership passes to the worker bee who delivered him. Though worker bees have no ability to reproduce, they are still monsters and as such desire union with men even greater strength. Thus, a worker bee is unlikely to release a man she has brought back to the hive. Instead, she takes him into her chamber, where he will live with her, providing her with sexual joy each evening after her work is finished. Worker bees continue to search for husbands even after one is found for the queen. In fact, they may intensify their efforts knowing that the man they catch will not be taken by the queen. Honeybees strongly favor the nectar gathered from owl runes over that of ordinary flowers, as owl rune nectar has strong aphrodisiac and potency-enhancing powers. Before mating with a man, she spreads it over and in his body with her mouth. Occasionally, a honeybee will groom herself by rubbing the nectar all over her body. Over time, this helps to make her figure more lustrous, more inviting, and more sensitive to pleasure. It also causes her to emanate the honey's tempting aroma, which, along with the temperament and lovemaking of the honeybees themselves, makes them irresistible. Honeybees also consume owl rune nectar as food. Honeybee bee destined to be queen feeds not on the nectar of ordinary flowers, but exclusively on the nectar of owl runes. This helps her nature as lascivious and libidinous nature, as she exudes the owl rune's aroma to better tempt men to her side. Honeybee hives occasionally face attacks from hornets, their natural enemies, and grizzlies, who seek the aged owl rune honey stored within their homes. The honeybee responds by flying upon attackers en masse and carrying them into the hive, where, together, they douse them in honey and bliss. In time, even the vicious hornets find their personalities change to resemble that of the honeybees, charming and sensual, and surpassingly fond of honeybees and human men. According to reports, they come to adapt to the honeybee's way of life, carrying men back to the hive with them and mating them night after night. Despite this monster girl being a real stinger. Eh? Oh, come on. You know what's worse than bees? At least bees try and help the colony. You know, they make delicious honey. They do all this good thing for nature. But then there's those bastards over there called hornets, and their main goal in life is to sting you and make your life utter hell. So, let's go over monster girl number 17, hornets.
Hornets belong to the family of bees and are an arthropodal-type monster girl. Their habitats are forests, and their natures are violent and aggressive. Their diets, however, are carnivorous, although they favor wild animals and insects. The hornet is an arthropodal monster that is especially large, even among the bee family. Despite their size, however, hornets live in hives with queens at the heart of the colony, just like other monsters of the bee family. The hornet is unusually violent compared to other members of the bee family, and they spend their days hunting for men. When a hornet finds her prey, she uses her venomous sting of her spear to paralyze him and carries him back to the hive. She will also use the stinger on her abdomen to inject him with an aphrodisiac. Perhaps because hornets have a constant store of aphrodisiac in their abdomens, they themselves seem to be aroused at all times, constantly restless for sex. Thus, when a hornet finds a man, she flies to him giddily and sticks him with both the paralytic and aphrodisiacal venom. Then, she mates with him thoroughly until she has had her fill. Afterward, if the queen is still unmarried, she takes the ravaged man back to the hive as a potential husband. If the queen is pleased with the selection, she will proceed to have sex with him every day. His ownership will go to the worker if the queen has no interest in him, much like the honeybee. It is a great delight for a hornet to find the man she had sex with now belongs to her forever. Typically, as soon as her good fortune has been announced, she proceeds to take her newly won man to her chamber, where she unleashes the full force of her thrilling body upon him. One can only imagine the satisfaction and excitement that must electrify her at the thought of days to come, laden and wet with the combined fluids of their mating. If the queen has a husband, it is not necessary for the workers to carry men back, but also means that they can do whatever they like with the ones they catch. So, much like the honeybees, their man-hunting continues unabated. Even considering their similarities, hornets have a long-standing animosity with honeybees. Often the smallest irritations cause tension and escalate until the hornet breaks into a full-blown rage. One-on-one, a honeybee does not stand a chance against a hornet. However, there have been times when a number of honeybees overwhelm a hornet, slick her in outer nectar, and tease every inch of her flesh, rendering her helpless with pleasure. They then take her to the hive, continue their tantric honey orgy, and ensure that the hornet understands the sweet pleasure of the honeybees. This causes the hornet to assume a tranquil attitude and favor sweet relations with men as the honeybees do. Then, while the mellowed hornet drinks Auru nectar and grooms herself along with the honeybees, her unused aphrodisiac venom merges with her body and makes it even more sensual and sensitive. The likely result is a hornet who seduces men with even more skill and allure than a honeybee, body and soul sinking in search of pure pleasure. So while hornets are all aggressive and sting you up, monster girls' hornets are however more, I would say, docile in comparison to your natural ones. However, that doesn't excuse that they will still be violent, unless they have been persuaded by honeybees, let's say. Bad news. Okay, bad news. Very bad news. So the monster girl I was supposed to teach you about appeared near a river, and that river happens to be near a campsite where there are currently campers, so we have to go handle it before bad things happen to these campers. So, on the way there, I'm gonna teach you about the monster girl, so let's get moving. We don't have enough time. Let's go over monster girl number 18, the grizzly. The grizzly is a part of the family of bears, and it's a beastman-type monster girl. Its habitats are forests and mountains. Its nature is peaceful, but sometimes violent. Important, it's violent currently. Its diet is omnivorous, although it prefers wild animals and fish. The grizzly is a beastman with bear characteristics. Though grizzlies usually seem absent-minded, they're very dangerous, displaying fantastic strength and surprising agility when attacking human men. And they love the nectar of Alrunes. Love it, love it, love it. Especially after honeybees have processed it into sweet honey. They frequently attack Alrunes and honeybees, slopping honey over their arms and faces as they enjoy the thick syrup. This results in their arms being coated with honey and giving off its scent. Anyone who licks a grizzly's arm is likely to get a mouthful of the honey's sweet, rich flavor. Though grizzlies are usually peaceful and idle, if they sniff or taste the honey coating their arms, they become aroused and violent. In these cases, they attack human men, using a sharp sense of smell to track them down, or alternatively, sometimes approach human settlements. And they have no trouble laying human men flat, with fantastic strength and surprising agility. So we gotta get moving. So when a man is caught in a grizzly's arms, his nostrils are filled with the cloying scent of honey, which causes his thoughts to melt into a haze. His resistances dissolve as the grizzly mates with them, their minds and bodies as fluid as honey, which pitches them into a frenzied cycle of rutting. Once the grizzly is completely sated by the man's essence, she at last returns to her usual relaxed state. However, if she finds the man's body pleasant, she is likely to cradle him in her great arms and carry him back to her den. As grizzlies are typically quite peaceful, the man can expect to be treated with great love and care. The grizzly may stroke him fondly, hug him tightly to her breast, and hold him as if she were a girl with a stuffed animal when she goes to bed, rubbing her face against his as she drifts off. Still, the next time she tastes honey or licks her honey-infused arms, she'll once more become a raging beast and fornicate with him violently. It is popularly believed that the best way to escape a grizzly encounter is to play dead, but this is a misconception. In fact, when a grizzly sees a man lying on the ground, she is likely to assume that he is waiting for her to envelop his sex in the musky slickness between her thighs. Rejoicing in his willingness, she will pounce upon him with wild abandon. Okay, so one of us has to be captured by the grizzly, and it's not gonna be me. It's gonna be you. Don't worry, I have this blue potion that'll make your member just stick up for like more than a few hours. If it lasts more than 4 hours, you should contact the wizard afterwards. So the plan is, you go out there, drink the potion, grizzly sees you, you lead it away as far as you can. They're pretty friggin' quick. So I'm gonna lead the campers away from the campsite and back to a human settlement, and I will save you later whenever that grizzly calms down. Got it? Okay. Okay. Bad news, rookie. So I spent too much money on Spider-Girl stuff. Don't ask, but I was supposed to spend it on your next teacher for the session. So I went on a budget and I found this fellow who I think knows about your next monster girl. I found him from the streets.
They got wings.
Yeah, he knows a lot about birds. And if you can tell, it's time for monster girl number 19, the harpy.
I believe they can talk. I think. Maybe. I'm not sure. See, the thing about these is that they're always like a weird human hybrid, and you have to think, the fuck did they get that way? They got wings and like bird legs. What kind of bird legs are they? Like chicken legs? Because if so, that implies people could make soup out of the legs. And I love a good soup, you know.
Alright, again, monster girl number 20, the harpy! Harpies belong to the family of harpies, and their types are avian. Their habitats are grasslands, mountains, and their natures are cheerful. Their diets are omnivorous, although they favor nuts and wild animals. The harpy is a monster with the body of a woman and the great wings of a bird, thus attaching it to the harpy family. There are many races within the harpy family, but eponymous harpy seems to be the most common of them all. Their bodies are small and light enough for flight, and their large wings carry them easily through the air. Harpies tend to be bright and cheerful in disposition, and their relationship with humans is excellent. They are known to strike up conversations with humans on mountain paths and carry baggage for them. In countries with advanced relationships with monsters, it is common for harpies to deliver goods commercially and adapt to human society and economy with ease. However, their demeanor changes drastically when they go into heat. They become typical monsters who attack human men and wring them of semen in the effort to conceive, thinking of nothing but fornication. When a harpy finds a man she likes, she lies in wait for him, swoops down from the sky, clutches him in her bird-like claws, and carries him back to her nest. There, she behaves as only a monster can, riding atop him to enjoy his sex thrusting deep within her, while her eyes lock on with his fierce as raptors transfixed upon its prey. One must be forewarned that a man who is on especially good terms with a harpy in normal times is the most likely to be abducted and forcefully fornicated with by her when she is in heat. It may be only after he is abducted and sprawling on his back while she mates with him that he remembers the glances she would give him with an indecent smile, eyes wicked and keen as if viewing prey, during the more benign days of their friendship. When her heat ends, the harpy returns to her usual bright and congenial personality. However, the relationship she has with a man she is copulated with will remain forever changed, as she is more likely to behave in a manner more familiar than she did previously, seeking carnal congress with him even when she is not in heat. The simple longing for sex reflected in her gaze is often too much for her lover to bear, leaving him with nothing to do but push her down and embrace her of his own initiative. Alright, okay, I admit, I kind of found the guy off the street. He walked into a soup kitchen, got kicked out, and then proceeded to get, mauled by harpies, to say the least. So, that was the best. I sort of spent all the funds on the lady friend,
You know, Spider Girls, I do apologize. So, I'll take it. I'll do my best. Next time, I'll take you on a quest to deal with our next monster girl. How about that? I'll make it up to you by doing that. All right? Yeah, let's do that. I'll see you tomorrow.
Well, rookie, you've made it to Monster Girl number 20. But before I give you your bronze certificate, you first have to learn about it. And we got a bit of trouble. That hobo from the other day got kidnapped. And this piece of paper was found on a building, so it looks like someone actually did care about him, so we have to go out into the forest and the grasslands, and we have to get ourselves a black harpy. The reason I know it's a black harpy is because where he was last seen, there is a bunch of black feathers scattered about. So, let's get moving, and let's learn about Monster Girl number 20, the Black Harpy. While everything is similar between the Black Harpy and the Harpy, the only notable difference is the Black Harpy's nature being lustful. The Black Harpy is a variant of the Harpy with jet black wings. Within the Harpy family, the Black Harpy is unusually intelligent and more violent than the Harpy. They are known to attack humans and human settlements, steal food, as well as precious metals and jewels, of which they are quite fond of, and abduct men in accordance with their taste. The most important difference between the Black Harpy and the Harpy is that while Harpies generally attack men only when in heat, though they are known to attack men with whom they establish a comfortable sexual relationship even at other times, the Black Harpy will attack and carry home a man who catches her eye even when not in heat. The Black Harpy is also a vicious monster which possesses at all times a powerful lust for men. During fornication, Black Harpy will drive their bodies together with brutal force, and while most members of the Harpy family do not restrain a man after their heat has cooled, Black Harpies consider their maturing partners to be their life partners, due to their strong sense of family, and will keep him forever by her side. One interesting difference between the Harpy and the Black Harpy is that the Black Harpy's heat cycle does not induce violence. Instead, it gentles her. Their usually high-handed self-confidence vanishes as they lean their flushed bodies against their husbands, begging him for sex with tear-moistened eyes. Black Harpies in heat are nothing more than animals thirsty for the seed of their beloved stallions. Black Harpies often value companionship and take care of each other and the husbands and the children who form their families. If a Black Harpy is attacked, other Harpies will come to her aid without a second thought. If a Black Harpy's husband or child is subjected to harm, she will attack with bitter fury reminiscent of the former overlord. Black Harpies may be rough and violent compared to Harpies, but they give their families the soft and gentle smile of a loving wife and mother. Right, with that covered, I officially grant you the Bronze Monster Girl Hunter medal. Now, as far as saving that hobo, I'm going to go in and punch him in the face. That will cause the Black Harpy to be so mad at me that all her focus will be trying to kill me. You are to run up, grab the guy, and get him back to town. That's all we have to do. I'll be fine, I can handle myself. Right? Let's head out. Oh, you thought you would stop after 20 months ago? No, we got a whole 200 more. Kinda. I think you got a whole, 180 more, actually. But that doesn't matter. What you do get is a new title. I'm not allowed to call you Rookie anymore, so I'm going to be calling you my apprentice. Now, we gotta go do a quest. Yay, because I can finally take you along on quests now. Ignore what your previous instructor did. He was a lunatic. He was arrested for violations against the Geneva Convention. Yeah. But anyways, we gotta go up to that little cave over there. We're close by since we've been walking, and we gotta go capture ourselves a cockatrice. So, make sure you cock out with your rock. Wait, that's not right. Rock out with the cock out, and let's go over Monster Girl number 21, the cockatrice. The cockatrice belongs to the family of harpies, so we're still technically dealing with birds. Their habitats are mountains, caves, etc., and their natures are timid. Their diets are omnivorous. They favor grains, fruits, insects, and small animals. The cockatrice is especially a small member of the harpy family, which is already known for being generally petite in stature. Though they do have wings, they are too small to carry their bodies aloft. They compensate with strong legs, which allow them to travel rapidly over land.
However, their most powerful and perhaps strangest ability is their ability to turn flesh to stone with only a glance from their eyes. Cockatrices are exceptionally timid. As soon as they see a monster larger than themselves or a human man, they're likely to dash away. Ironically, their bodies exude pheromones that are powerful attraction for human men. This paradox functions to help cockatrices find similarly fleet-footed men, quick enough to catch them so that they can produce nimble children. The pheromones released by cockatrices are remarkably powerful. Men who smell them cast aside everything to chase their taste, desperate to stuff their desire into the cockatrices' small bodies and defile them. In short, cockatrices run to be caught by men. When a cockatrice is finally caught by a man and finds her hips caught forcefully by his rough hands, she feels a strong sense of anxiety and fear, yet at the same time her instincts impart a strange relief at having successfully obtained a husband. When her hymen is broken, it is believed that she feels intense satisfaction despite the violence of the act. At this point, the anxiety and fear she felt before evaporate as she is enraptured by the feel of this man's sex penetrating as deep as her womb, and his essence being discharged throughout her cavity. She savors every thrust and tears into her eyes, a sob-like moan escaping her lips. Then, when the man regains his senses and attempts to release the cockatrice, she uses the power of her gaze to turn his gripping hands into stone, forcing him to finish ravishing her. While unmarried cockatrices release pheromones as they run, cockatrices who have husbands do not release these pheromones. If a man who is not the cockatrice's husband approaches her, she uses her eyes to encase his body in stone so that she can run away in earnest. One would like to say that, at this juncture, free of the lure of her pheromones, he is safe. But the problem is that there are often other monsters lying in wait to attack a man she has frozen in stone. Once a man has been captured by a cockatrice, it is only a matter of time before he will be taken to another monster's lair and thoroughly had sex with. So, I think we're supposed to catch a cockatrice for someone else to become their husband, but due to the laws of the cockatrice, we have, once you catch it, you become the husband. So, here is a net. We're just going to net one and just bring it back. Here's some sunglasses. I'm pretty sure these will protect you from petrification, although if you do get petrified, yeah, you'll be stuck for a couple minutes until I can get like an anti-petrification or a stone chisel. But, you know, just be safe. I'll be right here. I'm also trying to catch one. These things are fast mother flippers. Anyway, let's get this job done and get this cockatrice to this insane person in town. Alright? Yeah. Come on, apprentice, wake up and smell the roses. I need your help. There you go, there's your eyes. Anyways, you may be wondering, why are we tied to poles? Well, let me remind you what happened in the past hour or so. I think you've been out for like 3, 4... maybe a lot more. Anyways, you remember how we were supposed to be hunting a ogre? Well, let's just say that the ogre wasn't the first monster girl we encountered. And it also isn't the one that's next on your list. However, we did get lucky. And also unlucky at the same time. So, we went to go get the ogre captured. That didn't work as we were attacked by a band of orcs. You just got knocked the F out. Like, you did not stand a chance. And then I had to fight off a couple of them. They overwhelmed me. We both got captured, taken to the camp, and now we are tied to poles waiting for eventual gangbang. Yeah, this is gonna be our life now unless we can figure out to escape. So, how about you take that knife on your belt? They don't really know you have it, so take it, slowly start cutting the ropes. I'm going to teach you about the orcs, and hopefully that will act as a distraction as you cut both our ropes and we make a break. Just run. We just need to run as soon as you cut the ropes. So anyways, here is Monster Girl number 22, the orcs. So while you may think that orcs are those bigger green goblins, they are not. They are actually beastmen types, and they actually resemble pigs, as we'll get to on later. But their habitats are mountains, their natures are lustful, however, they do have a duality to them. Again, we'll get to that later. And their diets are omnivorous. The orc is a beastman with pig characteristics. While orcs are quite violent and known for their vicious attacks on humans, They are ungainly creatures and not particularly powerful monsters. Despite this, one must be cautious as they are sly and strike most often in groups. Orcs are extremely lustful, their minds never far from the thought of sex, most especially when they're on the prowl. When an orc finds a man, she gathers a band of her brethren to subdue her intended victim, and they move in to attack. If captured, the man is taken to their lair, where he becomes their slave, forced to fornicate endlessly with these sex-starved creatures, one after another. Licked, sandwiched, and mounted, he is consumed by their ample bodies, their voluptuous form embodying their carnal desire as they pound themselves into his hips, and grinding wildly as they make him theirs. On the other hand, when orcs are defeated by the men they attack, they yield to the victors as their masters, as though they were their slaves. This change in behavior is immediate. Instead of her usual rough manner, a defeated orc becomes meek and will fawn over her master. The orc's lust, however, does not change, and they often attempt to entice their masters to mate quite frequently. Once an orc has a master, she becomes his and only his, body and soul. Her sought full form now exists only for the use and pillage of one man, her master. And the more her master defiles her, she is but a mere tool for relieving sexual urges, the more elated she feels to have pleasured him, her master who fills her with ecstasy. Thus, orcs have a binary nature, dominant strength or obedience. This is more a matter of instinct than personality. Any orc who has not known defeat will delight in violating men ruthlessly without question, while orcs who have tasted defeat and gained a master delight in submitting to his will. An orc's loyalty to her master is true and extreme, etched in her very instinct. Not only does she take great pleasure in being taunted by her master, but she would willingly throw her life away at his command. You got those ropes cut? Okay. So on the count of 3, we book it. If we encounter the ogre on our way back, that's another problem we have to deal with. But our first objective is to just get away from this orc camp. Else, we just get turned into literal sex dolls for these orcs. And I don't think hunters really... Well, I mean, a few of them might enjoy it, but we have jobs to do. We have families to feed. I don't know what family you have, where you came from. You really haven't told me anything, so, you gotta teach me later. So, I still have that to expect, so, on the count 3. 1, 2, 3! I thought the memes would have stopped when we did the bee episode, but after last week's excursion, I just remembered who's next. Okay, first, let me get this out of the way. Ogres, monstergirl ogres, do not have layers. They are a single layer of pure muscle, and they will body slam your crotch harder than a WWE fighter. Alright? Second of all, just, if you want to screw the ogre, just go ahead and do so. But you're going to have so many broken bones. Mainly your crotch region, like your pelvis would be pulverized to friggin' dust. But hey, if that's your dream, then I'm not going to stop you. What I am going to tell you about is how the ogres work, and hopefully you survive an encounter with one. You still haven't really found that ogre from last week, but anyways, let's get on to Monster Girl number 23, the ogre. Ogres are a demi-human type monster girl. Their habitats are mountains, caves, and wildlands. They do not live in swamps, and if I see you reiterate that they live in swamps, I'm going to deck you in the face faster than you can say swamp. Got it? Okay. Their natures are aggressive and violent, and their diet is carnivorous, although they favor wild animals. Ogres are violent and dangerous monsters with green skin and horns protruding from their foreheads. Ogres act as they appear, wild and combative, and they wander through mountains, caves, and all manner of untamed lands in search of men. They also have a common sight on battlefields, wreaking havoc with their superior strength, and are known to carry off downed men. Ogres think only of human men. When an ogre sees a man she likes, she assaults him and attempts to pull him to the ground for a bout of aggressive sex. Fornication, for her, is like a fight. It is a contest to see who will bring the other to orgasm first. Therefore, she pounds the man's sex into herself with merciless abandon in an attempt to rush his climax. If he retaliates and gives her pleasure in return, her lust for battle ignites, and she increases the intensity of their coarse mating. The clash continues until either the man or the monster is too exhausted to move. Do not believe that utter submission will earn favor in the eyes of an ogre. Ogres view men who do not resist as weaklings, and will any such man with utter impunity. Worse, if the ogre takes a liking to the man, she will never release him. She will keep him defeated man to whenever it pleases her, crushing his dignity under a torrent of erotic heat. If a man captured by an ogre wishes to escape, he must meet her in sexual combat. The only way out is to ravish her to exhaustion so that she is unable to move. Once this is accomplished, he must flee immediately. If he hesitates, he will soon discover how quickly the ogre's power can flare as she flattens him once more and challenges him to a rematch. If the ogre is defeated, it is expected that the experience will render her a prisoner to the pleasure of the man, and she will burn with unprecedented love and lust. Copulation with her would thereafter transcend the intensity of any sex the man has ever had before. The number one cause of a monster girl hunter losing their job is a little condition that we in the business like to call pelvic dust. It is where the man's pelvis is literally reduced to atoms. Gone. Like a fine dust you can put on top of like meals. I don't know how many people I've seen get it and just never return to normal life. It's a very, very painful condition to have. I mean, the best you can get out is just having your pelvis broken, but as soon as your pelvis starts breaking a lot more than it should, yeah, you're kind of screwed for the rest of your life. Anyway, apprentice, we're gonna go hunt that ogre, and make sure to wear protection. And not that protection. I mean, literally, wear as much armor on your crotch as you can get. It'll save you. Now let's go hunt us an ogre.
Hi, it's your teacher here. You may be wondering why I'm not in person with you today. And I left you this audio file, and really, I left this audio file wherever I'm teaching at the moment, because I can't face them whenever I talk about this monster girl. So, I have to explain something. There comes a time in anyone's life that they meet someone, and they get to know each other, and they fall in love. However, for a monster girl hunter, like yourself, like I, and all the others, we are most common to falling in love with a monster girl. And for me, I fell in love with an arachne. And this was before the treaties were made, but she was subject to subjugation. And unfortunately, I lost her. So, I really can't face anyone on this day because the scar is still open. It's still fresh. So, I do apologize if I sound off here, but it's really a touchy subject for me. But protect whoever you can with your life. That's the main goal of being a hunter, but I digress. Today's monster girl is the arachne. The arachne belongs to the family of arachne, and they're an arthropod-type monster girl. Their habitats are caves and forests. Their natures are aggressive, violent, and lustful. Their diets are carnivorous. They favor wild animals. The arachne is an arthropodal monster with the lower body of a spider that lives in the dark places such as caves and the deep recesses of forests. Arachnes are highly intelligent, but tend to be amorous and combative. Their powerful physical capabilities make them extremely dangerous. Arachnes produce a sticky thread from their bodies with which they spin webs. They also use the same substance to dangle threads from the web proper to ensnare prey. The main web serves both as a home and a trap. The animals and humans that blunder into these webs or the outer strands find themselves immobilized by its strong adhesive properties. When an arachne catches a human man, she weaves him up in her web and mates with him until he gasps in pleasure. Despite his resistance to her wiles, the more the man struggles, the more the arachne's cruelty is aroused.
the more her desire mounts, the more forcefully she will violate and pleasure him. Thus, if a man is caught by an arachne, his best hope for escape is to stay still and wait for the monster to bring herself to completion. If an arachne takes fancy to a man, she will bind him up and firmly in her web, where he be subjected to the whims of her lust. Though the man may try to remain unresponsive, the arachne will touch him until his stubbornness gives way to arousal. Even if the man bows in submission, she will continue her carnal assault, proving that there is seldom hope for escape from her fervent web. The webs, however, are vulnerable to fire. Thus, carrying a torch is a simple yet effective method to avoid being entangled in arachne's threads. Arachnes are skillful at sewing and often present men when they like with clothing. It is unwise for men to accept their gifts, as arachnes intend this gesture to mean, "be mine." If a man accepts, he will be bound to her forevermore, stuck in eternal copulation. Arachne garments are delicate and beautiful, of the finest quality even by human standards. Arachne clothing is so sought after that many merchants willingly brave the inherent dangers in order to procure their creations, and sell them at high prices. Among monsters, arachne crafted clothing is in high demand. The ravishing and provocative designs can only enhance their tempting qualities. Even the faintest caress can be felt through many layers of the delicate fabric. I loved her. Very much. And I hope you, as a hunter, meet someone you find just as special. Okay? And when you do, protect them. Protect them with your life. Because if you don't, that little shroud of happiness may end up being lost. I will see you soon for the next Monster Girl. I just need some time. See you soon, apprentice. Feels so good to be back on track now, doesn't it? Now you may be asking yourself, why are we in a desert? Well, word around the street is that there is a dungeon supposedly going to appear somewhere around here. I don't know where it is. Supposedly it's a giant tower, so it might just pop out of the ground or something, or it's already there and we just need to travel a bit. But before we find this tower, we have to go over your next Monster Girl, which conveniently, because you know, I plan for this, always. I'm not just some crazy person taking you to different locations, but we have to find ourselves a Lamia. So, they're native here, and good thing that we are in the desert, so we can just probably walk around until we find one. So, let's go over Monster Girl number 25, the Lamia. Lamias are a reptile-type monster girl. Their habitats are deserts, mountains, and caves. Their natures are aggressive. Their diets are carnivorous. They favor wild animals overall. The Lamia is a monster known for her sharp intellect, with the upper body of a human and the lower body of a snake. Lamias create their own villages, or they live amidst human villages, yet are very independent. Lamias that live in Lamia villages are called wild Lamias. They lurk in the shadows in places where humans are likely to pass, such as highways and mountain paths, and show only their upper bodies so as to seduce passing men. Lamias also use their sweet, magic-laden voices to entice their prey. The voices slip into the heads of men like a warm, heavy fog. A man seduced by Lamia's words will stumble in the direction of her susurrating whispers, whereupon she reaches out with the serpentine half of her body, coils tight around him, and copulates with him. Even then, her voice continues to fascinate him, so that in the thrall of her murmuring, he finds all of her, even her serpentine self, to be attractive and thus surrenders himself to her. Afterward, if she is pleased with him, she takes him to her village at once and makes him her husband. Lamias are both tenacious and jealous. Once one has taken a hold of a man, she will always hold him close and never let go. If a Lamia finds that her husband has been unfaithful, she will squeeze him head to toe and make love to him until all thoughts of any other have been erased from his mind. Lamias periodically molt, such as snakes do. shedding the skin of their lower bodies. However, it is important to note that they become deeply aroused after molting. If a man carelessly approaches a lamia who has just molted, she is likely to wrap him in her freshly bare snakeskin and bring him to climax again and again until her vast sexual energy has been exhausted. Her new skin is so tender that the whole of her serpentine half is an erogenous zone. She wraps every inch of it around the man's body so as to bring herself even greater rapture. You know, I was hoping to find a wild lamia for you to encounter so you can have like some experience with like the wild natures and, you know, all that, but let's just make a stop by the village, you know, get some supplies because, I don't know about you, but this desert is really taking out of me, friggin'. It's very hot, so let's just get to the lamia village. You know, you'll have a great time, I guarantee it. You know, those lamias, they really know how to work their stuff, so let's get on and move on quick before we die of dehydration, you know? Okay, so looking at our surroundings and looking at the noises outside, I'm going to assume somewhere along the lines we got probably wasted, I don't know, got the papaya fruit or whatever, ended up in a Medusa cavern, and now we're trapped to become just breeding sows. So, listen, with your free hand, I have a phone in my pocket. Contact the first person in that list. Just send them the word help and they will understand. And then we sit tight until they come. Okay?
One pair of pants later.
So, I'm supposed to explain to him what a Medusa is, right?
Yeah. Mainly. But you know what we don't tell him? The true master plan. You see, he's a newbie. We could throw him into the crowd. And we can get out ourselves. We have to save him later, but we can worry about that. But currently, teach him, throw him to the Medusas, we make our escape, and I just give you whatever you want because you came to help us. Is that fine with you?
It's acceptable. Look, newbie. Medusas are part of the reptile type and Lamia family. Medusas are a high-level type of Lamia, which possesses the upper body of a human woman and the lower body of a snake. They are very few in number, so they mostly live by themselves. Perhaps for that reason, they are awfully lonesome. But because of their extremely prideful and strong-willed personalities, they normally do not show it. They possess the ability to cause the body of whomever they make eye contact with to harden like stone. Besides catching prey animals with this ability, they also use it to stop a man from moving, so they can drag him back to their lair as their husband for reproduction. In this case, only the man's limbs are petrified to prevent him from moving. They are also likely to restrain him with their snake bodies while forcing intercourse. Since they are such extremely lonely girls by nature, when they are joined with a man and embraced in his arms, they may petrify his arms and legs to prevent him from letting go of them. After sex is ended, they may even petrify a man's penis and try to have sex with him again because they do not want to be separated from him, or so it is said. The vagina of a Medusa can provide the penis with two different types of stimulation: a squeezing that is pleasantly cool, like stone, and conversely, a lukewarm feeling when they begin to seek their man even more and squeeze more desperately. The pleasure provided is likely to be more than sufficient to enthrall a man. Living things petrified by their ability never die from it. It can be healed if the Medusa does it herself, or with one of the magic items or medicines circulating through the marketplace. Also, if they leave a man petrified without choosing him as a husband, generally, before the petrification wears off, another monster starving for a man will carry him off. Then, when the petrification does wear off, he will find himself having sex with that monster. A Medusa's hair turns into snakes from the middle. Each of them can move freely, but since they share the same will as the Medusa, if she isn't hostile, there's probably no worry of being attacked. Medusa are stubborn and pretty much never show their true feelings, but the snake hairs are different from the main body and reflect their feelings and consciousness as is. For that reason, the hairs are straightforward, just the opposite of the stubborn main body. They will aggressively wrap themselves around a man they like and snuggle up, so it is possible to discern the true heart of a Medusa from the behavior of the snakes. Also, just like the Lamia, they are extremely jealous. If a man were to cheat on Medusa, he would end up being left petrified for days, with his wife coiled around him and roughly milking him by constantly having sex. So be careful. But also, don't forget that their habitat is, well, where we're at right now, a dungeon, caves, towers, and most stony places, etc. Disposition, and as you can tell, strong-willed and stubborn, and their diets, carnivorous, animal eaters. Good luck, newbie.
I do have a few questions. How did you find us, by the way? I don't think the newbie messaged you at all or location. How did you find us?
Don't worry about that.
I'm going to worry.
Don't worry about that. It's some questions are better left unanswered.
Okay, well, can I have a question? I'm obviously training this newbie. Do you want to, like, come... I mean, we're gonna be traveling across the world, you know, continent to continent. We're probably gonna visit the Demon Realm. But you wanna come with us? You'll probably get paid.
I mean, I will be getting paid, and I mean, sure. That seems fun.
Good. The only thing is you have to save the newbie from whatever monsters he gets caught by, so good luck!
What are you doing?
Oh, I'm gonna be having a grand old time.
You see that small tower over there, rookie? That's a dungeon, and that will be our last stop in the desert here. So the plan is we have to reach the bottom floor. That tower goes down. We have to reach the bottom floor and subjugate the boss monster at the very end. I have a few potions and scrolls and all that and magic items to keep us going, so we don't have to worry, but we do have to worry about the boss monster, because it's the mother of all monster girls, aka the Echidna, you know, probably the most terrifying thing ever. Well, not in terms of strength, but what they're capable of, because whatever species you see from here on out, is probably born by that one. So, without further ado, let's go into the dungeon, and also go over the dossier for the Echidna. What we do know is their habitat is the deepest recesses of dungeons. Their natures are lustful, and their diets are carnivorous. They favor wild animals. Their families are Lamia, and they're a reptilian-type monster girl. The Echidna is also a member of the Lamia family, with the bluish upper body of a human and the lower body of a snake. Echidnas are the most magical of all monsters and a far cry from typical members of the Lamia family. Though their disposition varies greatly from individual to individual, the one trait all echidnas share is extreme lust. Few humans have ever observed echidnas, as they are extremely rare and often live in the deepest recesses of perilous dungeons. They live in such remote regions so that only humans of great prowess can reach them, meaning that the ones they mate with and bear children by are the greatest specimens that humanity has to offer. An echidna's dungeon often contains precious treasures, mysterious potions, and legendary magical artifacts to entice such adventurers. The monstrous keepers of these troves are known to take woman's form and use their awesome magical power to spread the news of these treasures or to slightly promote echidna slaying quest among humans. When an adventurer has successfully evaded the gauntlet of traps and challenges and reached the end of the dungeon, he finds the echidna waiting as the final challenge and reward for conquest. The echidna, however, may be unable to conceal her excitement at having found one worthy enough to be her husband, and will wind her body around his own and make love to him. She will press every part of her to the man to make sure he does not forget the taste of her breast, lips, and vulva. With monstrous ecstasies rivaling that of the succubus, she will make him hers. An echidna has the instinctive ability to sense a man who is destined to be a hero. This helps her find a man great enough to be her husband. It is said that some echidnas come to the side of such men before they show outward signs of greatness, to support and to aid by their own hands the men they will one day drown in pleasure and enslave to passion. Incidences such as this may explain the many legends in which a heroic savior of humanity simply vanished into obscurity. Perhaps the heroine who stood by his side throughout was the echidna, and somewhere in the subterranean depths of the world, they thrive still bound in the ardor of sex. Echidnas have a trait very unusual among monsters in that among children they bear in a lifetime, only the first is an echidna. Subsequent children differ in race, appearance, and traits. In many cases, new races of monsters never before observed are born. For this reason, the echidna is known as the mother of monsters. Her search for great and powerful men stems from her desire to give birth to new monsters, more formidable and fantastic than ever before. Once an echidna has obtained and fully enamored a husband, she sets to work on her essential calling, to conceive his children and give birth to the greatest of all monsters, so that one day she would gently stroke her swollen belly with the blessed smile of the Holy Mother and murmur, "My sweet child, wrought from luscious seed of my dear husband, my greatest love in this world, just how lewd and lustful will you grow up to be? In what ways will you turn men from chastity? And how deep will your pleasure be as you debauch them?" Thinking such thoughts, the mother of monsters surely smiles in anticipation of her soon-to-born child. Now you may be asking yourself, hey, how do you know the echidna was here? Well, that is a tale for another time. Our main goal here is to subjugate the echidna in any way possible. Alright, let's go for guts and glory, get in there, and let's do our job as hunters! Well, rookie, I'm just gonna have to say good luck for what's coming up ahead. We're almost out of the desert, but you have to go through the Valley of Strength. The rules for this challenge are, you have to get from this side all the way to the other side without being defeated by any monsters. Now, I can go and be with you to teach you about all the monsters, but I cannot assist you in any fights. So, we'll begin with the first most common monster here, the Lizardman. So, let's begin your test and go over the Lizardman. The Lizardman belongs to the family of lizards, and they're a reptilian-type monster girl. Their habitats are caves, their natures are aggressive and stubborn, and their diets are carnivorous. They favor wild animals. The Lizardman is a monster with reptilian characteristics that live primarily in caves. Lizardmen are typically athletic warriors who can handle a wide range of weapons with mastery. They work constantly to hone their martial skills and often travel throughout the world to train. As such, it is not uncommon to find them beyond their cavernous origins. Lizardmen are aggressive in character, but do not ordinarily attack humans. However, if a lizardman meets a man who is a fellow warrior, she will most likely challenge him to a test of mettle. Should he lose the duel, she will not take his life. Should he win, however, she will offer this man her hand in marriage. Even if the man declines, she will follow at his heels to the ends of the earth. If he does not agree to her proposal, she will lose patience and take matters into her own hands by seducing, assaulting, and copulating with him. Although lizardmen dedicate their lives to martial glory, they are still monsters. The lizardman's instincts teach her perfectly how to handle a man's sword, and her agile body possesses the skill to raise him to the heights of pleasure. If he persists in the obstinacy, she will escalate the ferocity of her copulation, with no end to her passion in sight or mind. As warriors, lizardmen can seem rigid and unyielding, but as wives, they are dedicated and reliable. Their instinct for battle is equaled only by their instinct to serve the men who defeat them. When a lizardman has found a husband, a great desire to bear his children wakens in her. The instinct of craving to be impregnated by a man stronger than herself is a foundational aspect of her race. By giving birth to the child of such a man, and raising that child to continue to surpass her in strength, the lizardman helps her race to become even more powerful than before. Alright, let's go through the checklist. You got your sword, you got your shield, you got your small dagger, you got a few potions on you. Yeah, I think you're fine to go. I'll see you on the other side, and one last good luck to you. See ya, rookie. Congratulations on surviving the test, rookie. All I can do is pat you on the back and say, you did it, you survived. But sadly, we have to re-enter the valley and enter one of the caves. Due to the manual, having us bounce around regions, our next one is technically going to be found more common in the volcanic regions, but we can probably find one or two in the cave systems, and whatever is next afterwards. So, without further ado, let's enter that cave and encounter ourselves a salamander. The salamander belongs to the family of lizards, and they're a reptilian-type monster girl. Their habitats are caves and volcanic regions. Their natures are honest, aggressive, and passionate. Their diets are carnivorous. They favor wild animals. The salamander is a variant of the lizardman that has blazing red scales and lives in warm climates such as volcanic regions. Salamanders are ardent and straightforward, genuine warriors who seek battle with flaming passion, traveling in search of humans who can prove themselves worthy rivals. The behavior of salamanders is similar to that of lizardmen in that they ordinarily do not attack human men. However, when they meet a man who is also a warrior, they will burn feverishly for battle and challenge him. As the salamander fights, her excited passion will ignite her tail. The more heated the clash becomes, the longer it sizzles on. The closer she comes to being caught by the man's blade, the fiercer she burns. At the conclusion of the fight, her zeal most often subsides, as does the flame on her tail. However, regardless of who won, if she finds the match to have been worthy of her strength, her fire will burn on along with her tail, bright, blazing, and undying. This is a sign that she has recognized her greatest rival. As a warrior, there is no greater joy, and thus a hot passion is roused in her. It is then that she realizes that the sight of the warrior before her has kindled her body, and that her heart is throbbing with a thrill that anticipates a different sort of battle. The salamander embraces the sear of her emotion, letting it burst from her in an outcry of love, and a plea for him to lie with her as her husband. Though he might refuse, this flame, once kindled, can never be extinguished, and she will scream her love for him to the ends of the earth. Should he flee, her flame will only burn more brilliantly, until at last it swelters beyond her ability to control. Her need for him will consume her body, and, like a beast burning in heat, she will drop his body to the ground and have her way with him. It is said that a salamander's flame of love never goes out even after she has made a man her husband. She forever continues to speak to him with the most sultry of words, and her hands often reach for him before she can think. When she looks at his cherished face and feels his warm breath against her ear, she cannot help but to kiss him deeply, filling his mouth with her slick tongue. Her body then grows too hot to manage, and she has no other option but to fling him to the ground, mount him, and beat herself violently upon his sex. And here's another little fun fact I can throw in. The salamander, along with other flame-type monster girls, are the reason why we have proceeded to make topical lotions for heat resistance rather than downing a potion. It's a lot easier if you're just going to be focusing on one area, and it's also a lot cheaper in terms of materials because we don't have to go hunting different things to get the mix-ins to make this potion when you can just take a little bit, have some lotion, and it lasts a lot longer than the potion would, so. Right, and then we now have to figure out how to get out of this cave. I believe the right path leads to a loop, so we'll just end up back here. The middle path leads into another monster girl. I believe it's just one we already encountered. It might just be a lizard man then. And the left path will lead us to the grasslands, which we need to go to. And it might, encounter some more monster girls. So, best sort of action is to go to the left path and we'll be out safe. So, let's get tracking, rookie. Journal entry number 68. I am restarting the journal entries from here on out in a vain attempt to recount my steps to find the rookie. It has been about a week since we entered the Valley Cave System in search of a salamander, without any idea of the despair that was to come. We were attacked by a group of werebats and pulled into the darkness with no light whatsoever to fend them off. Thankfully, even the slightest sparks from playing my weapon across the ground proved useful to turning the werebat's aggressive nature back to timid. It took about a few strikes to relight my torch, and I found myself alone, without the rookie, who had been bestolen by the bat storm. I am left alone with the sound of wind, the occasional dripping of water, and my own thoughts. By this time, I would teach the rookie about the monster girl we encountered, but I will have to forego having them here to secure my own sanity. Today, our monster is the werebat. The werebat is a beastman-type monster girl and belongs to the bat family. Their habitats are caves, and their natures are mean and timid. They are omnivorous creatures. They favor fruits and insects and small animals. The werebat is a beastman with bat characteristics that lives in dark places, such as caves. Werebats hang from shadowy nooks and crannies, waiting patiently for travelers to pass by. When they spot a human man, they launch themselves from the darkness, mount him, and engage him in sexual intercourse. Should a man attempt to resist a werebat or beg for mercy, the werebat will only ride him harder, with an even meaner and lewder smile. as they are notably mean in spirit. If there are other werebats in the same area, the loud panting of the werebat already engaged in intercourse arouses the others, and they swarm upon the man. The throng from above presses and throws shoves against one another as if each is scrambling to partake of a single luscious dish, attempting to taste the man's body. They jostle and rub and lick him, teasing his body. Even after the man releases his essence into one of the werebats, another will mount him at once and begin rocking herself against him. Amid this bacchanal, the man is too overwhelmed by the darkness of their overlapping wings to know how many are violating him and why. Some have said it feels as if the pleasure will continue for an eternity. Thus, werebats are brutal creatures, but they do have a weakness: light. As soon as they find themselves in a bright place, they become fearful and helpless. However, should a man take a werebat out into the light, she will not try to escape. Instead, she will cling to the man, hiding behind him as if silently pleading him for rescue. In this weakened state, a werebat is unrecognizable as the wanton creature that fucks men in the darkness. Rather, she is at his mercy. As if to underline this change, the werebat slides her trembling body near and presses every part of her womanly self over him. Her instincts thus command her to copulate with a man even in such dire circumstances as these. If they do indeed copulate, her fear will dissipate, the man's pleasure and warmth comforting her as if she were in the dark. Journal entry number 69. Nice. Journal entry number 70. Speaking out loud whilst I write these words calms the mind and prepares it for what is to come. I can see a faint light at the end of the tunnel, but I'm not sure if it's my time to go, or just a way out of the caves. I can only hope the rookie made it out, or at the very least, adapted to the situation like they always do to find their way out time and time again. The light is growing with each step I take. It is time to say goodbye to the journal. Instructor out. Oh, thank the stars are alive, rookie. I would have lost my license, I would have lost my job, and I would have had more blood on my hands than I'm normally supposed to have. Ignore that last part. But now that we're together again, we can continue your training with the centaurs before we accidentally run into a centaur encampment, and you will be fine, probably, so let's get right on to the centaurs. Centaurs are a beast-man type monster girl, and they belong to, of course, the family of centaurs. Their habitats are grasslands and forests. Their natures are violent and lustful. Their diets are carnivorous. They favor wild animals. The centaur is a beastman with the upper body of a human and the lower body of a horse. Centaurs live in large numbers across the Earth's grasslands. They are typically master warriors who use their powerful legs to gallop about the land, bows and swords in hand, as they live by hunting wild animals. Most centaurs value their pride as warriors and are usually calm and rational. They eschew meaningless attacks on humans, holding such acts to be a shame upon the honor of their ancient heritage, from which have sprung heroes and sages innumerable. However, their innate disposition is rough and lustful, and it does not take much for them to lose their senses and show their true colors. Some of those volatile individuals may flare up at the merest glancing touch of a human man. In such moments, their violent and lustful nature comes to the fore as they give in to the heating throbbing of their bodies and release their suppressed passion upon the man. Difficult as it may be to believe, centaurs are even more troublesome after they finish their assault. When lucid, they place great importance on chastity, and so, in the aftermath of fornication, they will chase the man about, demanding that he take responsibility, or allow her to take responsibility. Despite these claims, however, the truth is that the monster inside these beasts is whispering to them, "Get the man, copulate, and unite in lust." Centaurs allow only their husbands to ride upon their backs, though even this is a rare occurrence. When she does, reluctantly, let him mount her, the closeness of his body against her flushes her with arousal. By the time they reach their destination, the centaur will likely demand that they have sex immediately. All monsters in the centaur family have two vaginas. One is in the back, as it has been since the days of the old overlord, and as it still is on horses. The other was created upon the ascension of the current overlord. It is located in the front, at the border between human and the horse portions of the centaur, in order to facilitate coitus with human men by mimicking the anatomy of a human woman. Either vagina can be used to conceive children by copulation with human men. The rear vagina has been shrunken to human size, the better to draw sperm from the centaur's human lover. I'll leave you with one last bit of information, trainee. Do not force yourself on a centaur. And on that topic, do not force yourself on anyone. I will condemn you to the pits of hell if you do. Okay? Be a good bean. Now I know what you're thinking. It seems stupid that we got lost in the forest for 2 entire months, but let me just reassure you, it's all a part of my master plan. You see, we're in a forest, and you get lost in forest. And the more lost in the forest you are, the deeper in the forest you are. You see? And because we're going on a trip to see a unicorn, we have to go deeper into the forest, so by getting lost, we subsequently get deeper into the forest. Now hide behind that bush, and let's wait out a whisper in your ear how unicorns work, and hopefully we see one, across the trail. So, without further ado, let's go over the unicorn. Unicorns belong to the family of centaurs and are a beastman type monster girl. Their habitats are forests, their natures are peaceful, devoted, and lustful, and their diets consist of grasses and vegetables. The unicorn is a variant of the centaur with a beautiful white coat and one horn extending from its forehead. Unicorns often live deep in forests, though they are still considered monsters. They are treated as a symbol of purity. Their demure demeanor and peaceful grace makes them the very image of chaste maidenhood. Like other monsters, when choosing a partner for copulation, they prefer human men. However, they never force sexual intercourse upon them by means of said violent assault. Their most favored partners and companions are the most pure virginal men who have never dallied with other women or monsters. Furthermore, they are said to remain pure virgins themselves, abstaining entirely from fornication until they exchange vows with their husband. They grant their bodies to their lover of choice and none else, and sexual intercourse to them is a sacred act, a covenant between husband and wife. For these reasons, many people hold misconceptions about unicorns, but take heed. Do not be deceived by their innocent facade. They are just as lustful as any members of the centaur family. A unicorn without a husband doubtless spends day after day dreaming of the sweet pleasure her future husband will bring her, and a unicorn who is newly married can be expected to use her pure yet lascivious body to actualize every dream of pleasure she has had in all those days of abstinence. She seduces her husband and spends day after day with him in the sweet pleasure of lovemaking. The horn of a unicorn contains powerful magic which the unicorn can use for potent healing effects. The purer the unicorn's mana is, the more powerful its healing properties will be. While in any intermixing with other types of mana weaken its strength, it is said that the reason unicorns avoid men who have lain with other monsters is to keep their own mana pristine. While her magic is capable of defending her from the outward assault of foreign mana, if her husband is unfaithful, the mana of other monsters will be stored in his body. If she lies with him thusly, she will find herself filled with strange mana she is helpless to resist. In such a case as this, the unicorn's own mana rapidly transforms as she becomes the opposite of the unicorn, a bicorn, a monster known as a symbol of impurity. Bicorns value debauchery and wish for nothing more than to drown in pleasure. A unicorn who has turned into a bicorn is likely to desire to lead a more profligate and sybaritic lifestyle with her husband. And as such, she may summon the monstrous partner her husband broke his fidelity with, so that the three of them may together discover a deeper, more violent pleasure. And that is why you will never see a unicorn subjugation quest, only a quest to collect their horns. People want their healing properties. Now, it's probably going to take us another month to get out of this forest, maybe we'll end up in a labyrinth of some sorts. Where are you going? Wait, why are you walking away? Rookie, come back!
It's been 8 months since we've entered this maze, and we've yet to die. But that's good news. Even better news, we're both together, and we're both ready to take on any challenges ahead of us. If we ever make it out here alive, we're going to die of either starvation or the Minotaur. Speaking of the Minotaur, I forgot to tell you all about them, so without further ado, let's get right into that little information there. The Minotaur belongs to the family of Minotaurs all of its own, although it is a beastman-type monster girl. Its habitat is grasslands and dungeons, such as those found in caves and labyrinths. Its nature is aggressive and violent, and its diet is omnivorous. It favors meat. The Minotaur is a beastman with cattle characteristics. Minotaurs are monster warriors known to wield gigantic weapons with formidable ease. They are rough in temperament and tend to act as they please without careful thought. For this reason, they are very dangerous. When a Minotaur sees a man who meets her fancy, she immediately charges and takes him for her own. The Minotaur's endurance is boundless, and she delights in violating men with as much force as she can muster. Thus, a man caught by a Minotaur must resign himself to submission until he faints from exhaustion. It's important to note that Minotaurs are aroused to even greater violence by the color red.
The man who wears red before a Minotaur is almost certain to become the sole target of her ferocious desire to fill herself to the brim with his sex and seed. However, though, Minotaurs are dangerous creatures. They are fond of sleep and do not wake easily. In most encounters with a Minotaur, one will find them sleeping. They spend most of the day in slumber, even right after eating or having sex. Minotaur is likely to doze off with her sexual partner still in her arms. The man may find himself unable to escape and is thereafter treated as her husband. Minotaurs are highly indolent, rarely showing interest in matters other than food, sleep, and sexual intercourse. The only three things they are truly passionate about. In particular, Minotaurs who have acquired husbands seem to think of sexual intercourse with them almost continuously. When they're not having sex, it is quite likely they can be either found eating or sleeping. Minotaurs seem to take supreme joy in sleeping with their husbands in their arms, especially after an exhausting day of intercourse. Later, when she opens her eyes and sees the face of the man she loves, she cannot help but climb atop him once again. Thusly, her day begins and ends in carnal wonder, after which she drifts off one more into comfortable and well-deserved sleep, with her man in her arms. The cycle begins anew. Alright, here's my grand plan of escape. You will set your foot on my hands, and I will toss you up onto the wall of the labyrinth. You will then have to climb up and get a good view of the exit, wherever it is. However, we only have a few minutes to do this, because I'm like 100% sure that if we do this, the Minotaur will see us and know our location. Therefore, we have to act fast, find the exit, move along, and just you hope we don't get caught. Got it? Alright, let's go. You know what sounds really good right now? A nice ice-cold milkshake with a little bit of whipped cream, some chocolate drizzle, and a nice cherry on top just to tie it all together. I know a farm down here that last time I went, they made me the best milkshake I've ever had. Told me it used free-range Holstein milk. Get that! Except last time I heard, they got a little bit rowdy and some guy's pelvis was atomized, so, let's use some caution before we head over, but I'm gonna tell you more about these Holstars before we go. Holstars belong to the family of Minotaurs, and are a beastman-type monster girl. Their habitats are grasslands and human settlements. Their nature is gentle and devoted. Their diets are omnivorous, though they favor grass. Holstars are a variant of the Minotaur, with distinctive black and white coats. Unlike the Minotaur, their violence has mellowed over the course of their evolution. They have chosen to live under the human hand and are correspondingly docile in character and rarely attack humans. However, like Minotaurs, they are unskilled at deep thought and tend to behave idly. They spend most of their time sleeping, feeding, or engage in sexual intercourse. Wild Holstars wander about constantly searching for a man to be their master. Upon finding a man they like, they will live with them among human settlements or nearby. Holstars often press their enormous breasts against a man. This is their way of expressing affection. Squeezing their breast is considered a sign of emotive reciprocation and is enthusiastically welcomed. When a Holstar presses her breasts against a man with special force, it is a signal that she desires to mate. Holstars try to respect the wishes of their masters, so the man is free to ignore her entreaty if he chooses so. However, though they might be docile, Holstars are monsters with inhuman sexual appetites, so they only withstand being ignored for so long. Thus, a docile Holstar who has been repeatedly rebuffed will turn violent and attack the man in order to mate non-consensually. She will remain intractable until the entirety of her long-accumulated pool of libido has been depleted. Another trait the Holstar shares with the Minotaur is its arousal by the color red. Prolonged exposure to the color causes a Holstar to become violent for a time, as if she just remembered she was a monster, leading her to attack much in the manner of the original Minotaur, who is also impassioned by extended exposure to the color red. However, when a Holstar is so aroused, she maintains her instinct to seek her husband. It is said that if a Holstar with a husband becomes aroused by something red, she will charge across any distance in order to find him. Holstars can produce milk from their breasts without having children. Their milk not only exceeds almost any other in flavor and nutrition, but also boosts potency. It is highly sought after by both humans and monsters. A man who bides with a Holstar will find that he will need nothing more than her milk to keep himself healthy. God, I can already taste it now. A nice chocolate milkshake with a little bit of brownie bits, some cookie dough, whipped cream, and sprinkles all over the top. What kind of milkshake you plan on getting? Doesn't hurt to think of it now so you'll be ready to order when we get there. There are two options for dealing with monster girls, and only two options. Okay, three if you count one of the outcomes of option A. Option A is you start lovemaking, and you teach the monster how not to kidnap people and that they can simply ask what they need and get help from humans. And then there's option A1 where you fall in love and you spend the rest of your life with them, but, you know, that's a different story altogether. And then there's option B. You deal with it with swords with magic. And it just so happens that our next target, the giant ant, always falls into their option B, because once you fall in love with it, or you know, happen to make love with it, by next week you will be kicked out of town for starting a giant ant infestation. Like someone in this godforsaken town. So bear with me, and let's go over the giant ant and how to deal with them. Giant ants are an arthropod-type monster girl, and they belong to the family of ants. Their habitats are caves and burrows, just as those found under plains and forests. Their natures are diligent. Their diets consist of animal corpses, grains, etc. Giant ants are arthropodal monsters that dig tunnels under plains or in caves to create a massive colony centered around a queen. Their small bodies belie their impressive strength. They can easily pick up objects larger than themselves and dig steadily and tirelessly through hard rock. Excepting the queen, all giant ants are workers and serve such roles as guarding the colony, procuring sustenance, and digging new tunnels. During the day, most workers scour the surface for food. As they travel over ground, they leave behind a trail of special pheromones. Other giant ants follow them by this trail, which allows them to move in perfect files. Even if an ant deviates slightly to look for food, she can readily rejoin the ranks. This is not, however, the only function these pheromones serve, as they also attract human men. Men who inhale the ant's potent traces join the file in a daze and disappear into the colony and later into the arthropods' beds. Giant ants are highly industrious. They begin work as soon as the sun rises and remain industrious as long as the sun is out. Their libidos rise in proportion to their fatigue. Therefore, when the sun sets and a giant ant returns to her bed, she immediately attacks the man she has brought there and copulates with him. It is nigh impossible for any man to resist, as a giant ant's sweat contains a sex pheromone, so that when they sweat heavily during the day, both ants and their men are aroused and drenched in a thick female scent that incites overwhelming lust. Giant ants ordinarily have no reproductive capacity. In rare instances, though, individuals who have been very sexually active may become pregnant. When this occurs, the individual leaves the colony with her favorite man and begins a new colony as its queen. Upon becoming a queen, an ant's libido becomes especially strong in order to produce a large number of offspring to populate her newfound colony. The man's job as her husband is to plant these children within her, and he is thus expected to copulate with her again and again. A queen ant becomes far more heated than an ordinary ant in the course of copulation. This causes her to secrete a large quantity of sweat. It fills her chamber with pheromones that continue to stimulate both her and her man, allowing them to copulate throughout the day. So you see now why we don't want giant ant colonies to prosper? Once one forms, hundreds of men disappear over the night, and then you have 100 more colonies to deal with. It's a problem, I tell ya. Except that ant over there, I don't think that's an ant. You stay right here, I'm gonna put up my charm. I have fully returned, Rookie, and I have decided that we are not going to lay waste to this ant nest. And I am saying that fully because I just spent the night with an ant arachne, and it was a good night. So let's leave peacefully and go over the ant arachne. The ant arachne is an arthropod-type monster girl, and they belong to the family of arachnes. The habitats are caves and burrows, such as those found under plains and forests. Their natures are lustful and aggressive, and their diets consist of animal corpses, grains, etc. The ant arachne is an arthropodal monster that is usually small among the arachne family. Ant arachne strongly resemble the giant ant in appearance, so much so that the giant ant mistakes them for kin. They take advantage of this oversight to live among a colony of giant ants. They eat what the giant ants bring and rarely go outside the underground colony, meaning that it is rare to encounter one on the surface. Despite their superficial similarity, the ant arachne differs drastically in temperament from the giant ant and can be quite savage. They procreate with the men the giant ants bring, grabbing them at their discretion and hauling them to their beds. Affected by the giant ant pheromones which pervade the colony, they are very lustful, always fully aroused. An ant arachne will bind the limbs of her man using the thread she spews from her body and joins with him, clutching his hips and arms tightly with her 8 legs and slam their hips again together. Though a man may eject his seed, the ant arachne's constant exposure to the giant ant pheromones means she will not be satisfied with 1 or 2 unions. She will crash her hips upon him endlessly, enjoying the pleasure and fulfillment of bringing him to climax again and again. Though ant arachnes themselves cannot emit pheromones like those of giant ants, their absorption of the giant ant's pheromones make her irresistible to her man, who, upon watching the erotic heaving of her body, is unlikely to be able to suppress his own passion. Unlike the giant ant, the ant arachne does not work during the day. Instead, after catching a man, she spends both day and night in her bedchamber in an alternating cycle of coitus and naps. As the man is not required to work either, he is likely to submit to her whims and come to think of nothing but intercourse with her. Come on, rookie, we have to get going. As much as I would love to spend day after day with the ant arachne, we have jobs to do as hunters. We gotta make our way towards the enchanted forest to find some more quarries. Rise and shine, rookie, get up on your feet. We have a lot of distance to cover. We have an entire world to explore and many monster girls to learn about. And besides, if we don't get off this trail quickly enough, we're gonna end up like the people ahead of us. I heard they got attacked by a mantis last night, and if you don't know, once you get attacked by a mantis, you are considered a lost person and no one is going to look for you. And since we don't stand a chance on one-on-one combat, let's go over how to deal with a mantis so we have better chances of escaping than anything. Let's go over the mantis. Mantises are an arthropod-type monster and belong to the family of mantis. Their habitats are forest. Their natures can be one of two things, calm and unemotional, or calm and lustful. Their diets are carnivorous. They favor wild animals. Mantises are arthropodal monsters distinguished by the large sickles on their arms. They usually live deep in the forest and prey on wild animals by slicing them deftly with these sickles. The cold manner in which they lop off the heads of enormous beasts in just one quick strike drives fear into the hearts of many, earning them the nickname Assassins of the Forest. Mantises are highly unusual among monsters in that not only do they not attack the human men they encounter, they do not show even the least interest. Their expressions are unchanging and betray not a trace of feeling. Nothing that happens before them can move their hearts. Even when they slice the heads off of beasts and bathe in their blood, true to their nature as assassins, they flinch not. They live simply to live, and for this reason show no interest in things that are not necessary to their daily survival. Human men are not sustenance, and thus, to them, might as well not exist. However, there is one period in which a human man becomes indispensable to mantises: breeding season. During this time, she needs the seed of human man in order to fertilize her eggs. Still, the mantis is said to bear no emotion in this either. The man is only a tool necessary for the continuance of the mantis race. The mantis leaves the forest, approaches a highway or human settlement, calmly and swiftly captures a human, and brings him into the forest and mates with him, purely for the purpose of reproduction. She begins by nimbly slicing open his clothing with her sickles so as to expose his lower body without harming him. She then manipulates his penis with a mechanical ease that is void of both feeling or warmth, but still deft with monstrous craft, and that promptly leads to erection. Through all of this, she is utterly indifferent. Before this moment, she has never experienced sex, and thus she calmly lowers her hips. That is when everything changes. A surge of mysterious, unknown pleasure takes her with its sweet throb. To better understand this feeling, she shifts her hips gingerly, and then her mind and body both shiver as her arousal becomes all the more inexplicable. Still not understanding, she looks down at the face of the man, and with her chest and face grow hotter and hotter. Without her thinking, she brings her face to his and presses their mouths together. Their sudden closeness inspires her to squeeze his penis inward as she quickens her pace, driving him deeper and deeper inside her. At last he releases his essence, and in that moment, her once empty heart is filled with a strange warmth she has never felt before. Through this first congress, she learns for the first time how wonderful sexual intercourse with a man can feel and how dear the human man is to her. Thereafter, the mantis no longer lives just to live. Instead, she finds delight in the man's body and resolves to never let him go. She uses her sickles to protect him and secure food for him, and each night she straddles him in her bed to feel once more the strange happiness of rubbing her body upon her cherished man, who fills her every corner with his sweltering sex. Most times, even in this new state, the mantis remains as expressionless as ever, except when her husband is by her side. In these moments, she may blush and subtly lift the corners of her mouth. You know the deal, keep your head on a swivel, be alert at all times, and you should be relatively safe from harm, rookie. Rookie? Where'd you go? Please don't tell me I have to save you. Rookie, where are you? Why did you have to get dragged off? Hopefully it wasn't by pixies. Pixies are a pain to deal with. It could have been fairies. Fairies would be a little bit better to deal with. I mean, at the end of the day, you still are let free. Right, let me just mentally go over the fairies. And hopefully I'll find a rookie by then. Now, how did that page about fairies start again? Right. Fairies are a sprite-type monster girl, and they belong to the family of succubus. Their habitats are forest and land of sprites. Their natures are simple, honest, and cheerful. Their diets are the essence of human men. The fairy is the most common creature that lives in the land of sprites. Fairies are small in form, small enough that they can fit comfortably in the palm of a human. They are cheerful and love to sing and dance. Fairies are not monsters by nature, but instead have been turned into succubi by taking in succubus mana. Despite this, fairies feel no antagonism towards monsters. With their simple natures, they find amusement in the company of similar simple pixies and imps, whose mana encourages the fairies' transformation into monsters. From both the promptings of the monsters they convert with and their own monstrous instincts, fairies learn that making sport with men is the purest of pleasures they will likely ever encounter. They often travel from the land of sprites to the forest of the human world in order to seek out men. When they spot one, they will fly about him and beg him to come have a little fun. Usually this means they're asking for sex, as a fairy's idea of fun includes rubbing her body all over a man's penis to make him feel good. They are also capable of sexual intercourse, even though it would appear that the size of their bodies could not accommodate even the tip of a human penis. But when a fairy becomes a monster, her body is given the ability to facilitate intercourse with human men. Her abdomen swells as she takes the penis through her whole body, squeezing it tightly with her vagina, which flexes and expands to welcome her man's girth. She feels no pain or discomfort during intercourse, nor any physical trauma, just delicious pleasure. A single fairy is small in size and weak in power. Thus, if inclined, one can catch her, please her until she is satisfied, and then shoo her away or domesticate her. It is another matter, though, when fairies come in swarms. A man may find his body covered in fairies who insist on lavishing him with attention until he passes out. When a number of sprites gather and dance, they form what is called a fairy circle, the ring of which gently incandences. Anyone inside the circle will be whisked away to the land of sprites. A fairy circle may also form when a man is attacked by a mass of fairies swarming in a hot orgiastic dance, who will also spirit him away to the land of sprites. There, he will find a nation of happiness where he is likely to forget about his previous life and spend eternity in light-hearted fornication with the fairies.
Oh, there you are, Ricky. I thought I had lost another one. What were you doing sneaking off? Are you just willing to risk your life just for simple fun, or you do want to be a hunter?
I'm sorry. You're safe, you're sound, that's all I care about. Let's just get back on the road and out of this place before we get attacked by something else. Okay?
Alright. Are we clear? Did we escape the fairies? I'm out of breath.
Give me a moment here. Whew. Alright, I changed my mind. I would definitely have preferred pixies over than fairies, at least with pixies. It's not as weird as it looks. Oh. Alright. Let's go over the pixies, so, we're better protected, because I feel like we're going to find some soon. Let me just catch my breath first. Alright, I'm good. Pixies are a sprite-type monster girl, and they belong to the family of imps. Their habitats are forest, their natures are mean, and their diet consists of the essence of human men. Outwardly, the pixie resembles the fairy, both taking the form of sprites. However, unlike the fairy, the pixie is a true monster, belonging to the imp family and similar in nature to the succubus. They are very mischievous and love to lead humans astray in the forest and attack them in groups and have their way with them. Despite their small size, pixies are about as lustful as succubi and are inclined to give men lewd, seductive smiles as they use their whole bodies to give them pleasure and squeeze out their essence. Because they resemble fairies, who are friendly to humans, it is common for pixies to impersonate them in order to lure men deep into the forest, only to turn on them and assault their victim with searing vigor. As aforementioned, pixies are ordinarily as small as sprites, yet when they obtain essence and accumulate mana, they become capable of using magic to change their own or their man's size. A pixie may enlarge herself to the size of a human, or she may shrink a man she fancies and take him away to the land of sprites. This magical effect lasts a day at the longest, but pixies do not use it for mere pranks. When a pixie shrinks a man, she will fornicate with him immediately, so it is doubtful that fleeing and waiting for the effect to expire would be an effective escape strategy. As pixies are monsters rather than members of the sprite family, they did not originally reside in the land of sprites, yet many have come to live there as of late. It is said that they have been teaching non-monstrous fairies the delights of sexual pleasure, so as to turn them into monsters. There are rumors that they have also taken to changing the size of the fairies' men in order to make fairies' sex lives more interesting. There is, therefore, little reason to doubt that the presence of pixies in the land of sprites appears to be a major factor in the monsterization of sprites in their land. Alright, I've figured out what's happening. The more we try and run away from everything, the further we get into the forest and more we get lost. So, let's ask for some help. Yeah, I surrender, we're asking for help. Hopefully from one of the more, artistic species. You know? Looking to have a map made. Can you do that for me? No, not a map of the human world. I need a map of the land of sprites. I need to find an exit to get out. I know I can travel in and out, but the exit's not for me. It's for my trainee. Oh hey rookie, you're finally awake. I've been trying to barter for a map of this Liananshi, and I've been failing tremendously, so let me teach you about them, and let's see if you have the proper skills to get us out of here. Firstly, the Liananshi is a sprite-type monster girl, and they belong to the family of succubus. Their habitats are forests, human settlements, and the land of sprites. Their natures are devoted and honest. Their diets consist of brilliant works of creativity. The Liananshi is an unusual type of sprite. Many live in forests with other sprites, while others live among human settlements, disguising themselves in human form. They adore creative works such as paintings, musical compositions, and stories, and are drawn to the creators of such pieces. Liananshi have a very unusual diet. They feed on the energy contained in brilliant works of art, but they do not only feed on artistry. They themselves like to create, both by producing works of their own and assisting the endeavors of humans of whom they are fond. They are very forward in matters of love. If a Liananshi is moved by a human man's work, she will attempt to seduce him. As their bodies are always emit a faint seductive magic, a man targeted by the Liananshi will find her so maddeningly attractive that it will be nigh impossible for him to escape her temptation. A number of Liananshi have been turned to monsters by the power of the succubi. These Liananshi are extremely lustful and aggressively seek coitus with their lovers. They are also fond of erotica and have a passion for appreciating artwork of an arousing nature together with their lovers, and when their arousal has elevated, releasing its full force upon their lovers' bodies. As monsters, they find body works and the essence that is poured into them by men to be unbearably delightful. If her lover himself is an author of erotica, she will become utterly entranced by him and his oeuvre, and their joyful intercourse will fill her mind with thoughts of him and his work. A man who unites with a Liananshi may gain incredible artistic skill and genius. It is said that many such men have used this power to build vast riches and renown. However, the magic of her seduction gradually erodes his psyche. He loses engagement with all things but her, the works with which he will present her, and the act of creation. In time, he comes to see the riches and renown he has earned from his work to be nothing more than distractions, and he disappears with her into the land of sprites. There it is said that he lives on, frantically creating new pieces and loving the Liananshi. The Liananshi you currently see is one who favors paintings. However, there are also Liananshi who prefer prose, music, or other kinds of art. All are drawn to creators in their respective fields. Nice job, rookie! You got the map. Now hand it to me and let me see what it says. So, travel a bit east, travel a bit south, and we should be at the exit and back into the land of humans. What do I mean by being able to travel in and out? Oh, I just mean being able to travel in and out of the land of sprites. I have a few tricks up my sleeve that let me enter and leave at will. Don't worry, I'll teach it to you soon. Let's get back on the road now, shall we? Alright, so beyond this field is our way out, and we can finally go home. Problem is, if you touch any of the things that look like dandelions, you will either have the best experience of your life, or the worst experience of your life. So have utmost caution when you're crossing the field. The reason I say this is there's these little things called Kesseran Passerans in there, and they're a pain to deal with. I just want to go home. I'm done with these fairies. I'm done with these sprites. Let's just get out of here, okay? To begin with, the Kesseran Passeran is a plant-type monster girl belonging to the family of Mandragoras. Their habitats are wherever the wind takes them, and also the land of sprites. Their natures are cheerful and honest. Their diets, however, consist of the essence of human men. The Kesseran Passeran is a plant monster with a rather unique form, and robed in white puffs. Kesseran Passeran have extraordinarily light bodies, allowing them to drift through the air. The illustration shows one in an adult state. In childhood, it appears merely as a small white puff. The uncanny sight of these puffs floating by has led people to call them the happiness-bringing Passeran, and believe that catching one will fetch happiness. However, this nickname belies the powerful and dangerous psychedelic effects that matured puffs have on humans. It is said that inhaling a mature puff incites an intense and overwhelming haze of happiness. It has been speculated that the nickname was inspired by the immature Passeran, which has a weak or merely mood-boosting psychedelic effect. When an adult Passeran spots a human man who tickles her fancy, she drifts down toward him, scattering powder derived from her puff into the air for him to breathe. Upon inhaling her psychedelic dust, a state of peace and joy descends. Not only does he not resist her as she advances on him, he often takes the initiative to mate with her, seeking yet greater happiness. She accepts his acquiescence and moves to copulate with him in order to replenish her nutrients and create new seeds. Some men are so carried away by the happy feeling that they mate with the Passeran using brutal force, but to pleasure men in this way is a happy thing to a Passeran, and so her smile does not fade. Instead, it grows into a grin of ecstasy at the fiery pleasure ripping through her, and together, they continue to copulate madly, engulfed in exhilaration. This mating process may result in seeds, which the Passeran sends off into the air wrapped in some of her puff. The seed floats gently from place to place until one day it matures fully into a humanoid form. A man who catches the puff before it matures, believing in the legend of the happiness-bringing Passeran, will one day find that it has grown into a beautiful adult monster who wants him only for his sex. Passeran are very rare, and few humans have witnessed them. It is speculated that they originated as a special kind of plant in the land of sprites, that later drifted on the wind into the human world. Much of the happiness in the land of sprites can be attributed to the presence of these monsters.
Come on, stay with me, rookie. You're flush in the face. I know you're not feeling well, but we have a few more meters to go and then we're out.
Stick with me. Keep listening to the sound of my voice. Keep following me. Come on. Keep coming.
Oh god. Oh god, Passeran trips are not anywhere near delightful as they make it sound like. Okay, based on our surroundings, I believe we're in an elf forest, so that makes it a little bit easier to get home. So why don't we go over the elf and go find one so we can get a map out of here and go home. Elves belong to the elf type of monster girls, and they belong to the family of succubus. Their habitats are forests, their natures are proud, strong-willed, then lustful. Their diets consist of the essence of human men. The most well-known sort of elf is simply called the elf, or the forest elf. Elves resemble humans in appearance, but are born with pointed ears and extremely powerful magic. They believe themselves superior to humans, whom they generally despise. By nature, elves are not monsters, but elves that have been turned to succubi by succubus mana are considered monsters. Elves usually reside together in villages deep in forests where humans rarely tread, but when one becomes a succubus, she is banished from the village in accordance with elven law. Such elves often wander about the border of the forest near human settlements, following their succubus instincts in search of human men. An elf's powerful magic saves her from being corrupted completely by succubus mana, at least in the earlier stages of her transformation. She remains free of the horns, wings, and tail usually seen on a succubus and holds on to her lofty and proud spirit. But at its core, her body has become that of a succubus, and the uneasing ache for a human man wears at her. It is the nature of elves to despise this urge and resist it with all their might. Still, the urges of her succubus body push her toward the vicinity of men. When such an elf spots one, her body throbs for want of pleasure, and her words and actions come to defy her thoughts. She longs to be salacious and seductive, and once her reason is spent at last, she bows to her instincts and assails him, or seduces him to assail her. This results in copulation, through which the elf acquires a man's essence. Pleasure warps her mind and causes her body to become a succubus body and soul. Ironically, the longer an elf resists, the more lustful and powerful a succubus she becomes. It becomes impossible to imagine the days when she so despised humans as she doggedly seduces and mates with men. It is as if she feels shame at her days of fastidiousness, and intends to soil her once pristine body as thoroughly as possible. Reports state that she often massages the milky fluid of the human man onto her skin with an expression of rapture, thus thoroughly debauching herself. So our two choices are hopefully find an elf village and negotiate that we aren't going to be here long and that we just want out, or find an elf that has been exiled and negotiate with her to lead us out. If we go with option 2, I volunteer you as tribute, okay? Let's make that clear. Quiet, rookie. Don't make a sound. until I say so. Because if we make any noise, I think those elves will be alerted to our presence. It's a good thing we only ran into forest elves. If we ran into dark elves, I'm not sure if we will be...
Ah! Oh! Whip to the back! Rookie, take the book! Run! Go! I'll hold her off! Go! Keep running, Rookie, until you can no longer hear me yelling at you! Run!
Hey, Rookie. How you doing? Sorry it took so long. It wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. I don't want to be in these woods no more. I just want to go home. I haven't had a nice meal. I want to go home. Let me just explain to you the dark elf real quick. The dark elf... The dark elf belongs to the family of succubus and is an elf-type monster girl. Their habitats are the forest and the monster realm. Their natures are strong-willed and lustful. Their diets are the essence of human men. The dark elf is a type of elf that has brown skin in addition to pointed ears. Dark elves live in their own villages in locations such as forests and the monster realm. Long ago, before the current overlord took power, dark elves were not monsters. Upon her rise, dark elves, who were already lustful and wild, offered themselves of their own volition to the succubi. Dark elves do not despise humans as elves do, though they do like to use pleasure to break the wills of men they admire. They regard the men they capture as sex slaves or pets and take good care of them. They eat food prepared by these slaves and depend on them for reproduction. It is thus clear that slave means to them what husband does to other monsters, and that they simply have a different way of expressing their love. Mature dark elves spend years studying many techniques to use to please a man. When they have mastered these skills, they head out to find their own slaves. Some, however, remain in their home villages and decide to mate with their family members. Among humans, incest is considered quite taboo, of course, but dark elves have no such qualms. Thus, if a grown dark elf wishes to mate with a family member, she can do as she pleases without condemnation from others. Dark elves have a deep antagonism for the hard-headed forest elves. The two races frequently come into conflict. That said, it seems that the animosity lies preponderantly with the forest elves who work to expel dark elves, while dark elves attempt to instruct their elven prisoners in the ways of pleasure of which they are so innocent, as dark elves enjoy turning their kin into monsters as lascivious as themselves. I'll be fine, it's just a whip to the back. I've honestly got hit with worse. Can't say the same for my armor though. Took a big gash, probably needs a repair, and at worst, gonna need to replace it entirely. So how about you let this old instructor of yours buy us some new stuff? Why don't you? I'm pretty sure this is the right place. I mean, it's been a while since I've been here. Let's go inside and greet the owner. They're a good friend of mine. Hey Rex, you in here?
Hold on, I'm coming. Yeah, get up on my stool here. Oh god, it's you. Alright, what are you in for today?
So like 2 days ago, I encountered a dark elf and I took a real nasty whip to the back, and I was hoping you could repair my jacket. And maybe purchase some additional plate armor for the rookie over there.
Do you even have money this time? Last time you cheated me.
See, that's the thing. I was hoping you could give us a little bit of a discount, you know, just because we're friends and all.
A discount? A discount? Listen here, you insufferable asswipe. I'll spread your giblets across the walls as if it was Christmas. Coming in here asking me for a discount. I'll show you a discount.
See, rookie? Good friends. I do suppose the encyclopedia does have a section about dwarves, so let's go read about it while she prepares our order. The dwarf is a dwarf-type monster girl, and they belong to the family of succubus. Their habitats are caves, mines, and human settlements. Their natures are cheerful, aggressive, and lustful. Their diets are the essence of human men. The dwarf is another monster that is small in stature. Dwarves live in dwarven villages, often found in caves and mines. There are a number of monsters which are diminutive in size, but the adorable appearance of dwarves is of particular note. This, however, is their adult form. They are said to have had long, poor relations with elves due to differences in their temperaments. Despite their size, dwarves tend to have hardy, fiery dispositions, like wise sages who know how to look after their own. They are mature and monstrous women and can thus be expected to seduce men in pursuit of carnal pleasures. In the past, dwarves were not monsters except for those who were tainted by the succubus mana. However, their character led them to accept these monsters as part of their village without attempting to expel them. The dwarven men of the time considered it a trifle whether their women were monsters or not. In fact, they are said to have welcomed the transformation of their wives into lecherous monsters who would give them more pleasure. As a result, the population of dwarven women monsterized steadily, in contrast to the elves, who have staved off the total monsterization of their race by exiling monsterized individuals. These days, the dwarf is generally regarded to be a monster race. Dwarves are very good with their hands, and most are either miners of metals and gemstones or craftswomen who turn these materials into weapons and ornaments. The beautiful work of dwarves is traded at steep prices among humans and monsters. Before monsterization, these gay and lively creatures were proactive in facilitating trade with other races, including humans, and for many years have had made it a habit to visit human settlements to sell their ores and crafts. Their friendship with humans has only grown deeper since they became monsters, and many unmarried dwarves have taken up residence among humans in their search for a man. Dwarves are active and lustful. When one spots a man she likes, she will seduce him insistently, perhaps even assaulting him to achieve her desire. As has been mentioned, dwarves are good with their hands, a skill that is a powerful weapon as she grants pleasure to the man. The pleasure imparted by their talented grip is said to rival even that of the succubuses, so much so that they are capable of making men helplessly theirs through manual caresses alone. The dwarf wraps her hands around the man's penis with the same care and passion she invests in her craftwork. His penis becomes iron hard as if she forged it herself. She climbs upon the man and pounds his pleasure between her thighs with such a fury that one cannot help but worry she will break. But dwarves are more robust than they appear, and are delighted by the rough intercourse.
If you weren't a regular customer, I would have shot you by now. I could hear you in the back. Why would you read that in public?
Well, it's just a part of her training. They're supposed to know about it.
Here's your repairs. You have 10 seconds to get out of my sight before I turn you into a chair.
Okay, thank you. We'll be leaving soon. Bye! She scares me sometimes. You see that over there? That would be the Amazonian scout we're looking for. If you remember, after we got our gear repaired and our items bought, Rex sent out a letter to me. Something about a large-scale manhunt, and we need to go get information about it. And this all but confirms it. Problem is, we're about 30 feet away and behind some bushes, so keep your head low and try to be as quiet as possible. Hold on, let me move my arm. Move your leg. Watch over the trig. Oh no. Wait, where'd you go?
Wake up, my child. You have died and are now being reincarnated into a new world.
I'm just kidding. We're both knocked out, and I'm using your mental space to explain things to you. Which is why I created this little, explanation room. This totally won't become a running joke. So while we're, being dragged off to who knows where, let me explain the Amazonas to you. Or the Amazon, as it's easier to say.
The Amazon is a fiend-type monster girl that belongs to the family of succubus. Their habitats are forests, their natures are aggressive and lustful, and their diets are the essence of human men. Amazons are a variant of the succubus that live in their own villages deep in the forest. They originate from a tribe of human women called the Amazons, which was raided by succubi after the current overlord took power. They were transformed almost entirely into monsters. All are trained from childhood as warriors and possess superior physical prowess and combat skills. They have a matriarchal society with gender roles opposite those of humans. Women wield weapons and fight as warriors to protect the helpless men and children, while men mind the house in their wives' absence, comforting them when they return, tired from hunting or battle, by copulating with them and supplying them with essence. Amazons periodically assault human cities, capture human men of their liking, and take them back to the village as husbands. This is called manhunting and is considered the only true way to become a proper warrior. Amazons have a unique set of values. They assert their femininity by mounting men in public intercourse as a display of power and ownership. It also serves to encourage Amazons who have not yet acquired a man to follow her example. When a new couple is formed, there is always a celebration in which large numbers of Amazons gather to watch the bride fornicate with groom all night. This must surely encourage the unmated Amazons in attendance. One can imagine their excitement watching a true warrior copulate and dreaming of the day they too will seize a man and revel in the ecstasy of pounding themselves upon his member. If a man strays into the Amazon's territory, the unmated warriors will promptly commence manhunting. If a woman enters, they capture her and flood her with mana just as a succubus would, in order to make her one of them. After her change, they educate her as an Amazon warrior, teaching her skills of combat, their society's gender roles, and the best methods to pleasure men. If a man and a woman stray together, they greet her with an ardent welcome as a promising warrior who has already captured a man and give her a thorough warrior's education. Amazons paint themselves as depicted in the illustrations you see before you, believing that the symbols will draw out a warrior's power. However, these are in fact erroneous and deformed transmission of the runes of pleasure, which the succubi attempted to teach the Amazons when they raided their human tribe and turned them into monsters. The original runes that were designed to amplify the pleasure of succubi in copulation and have nothing to do with battle. If the Amazon had inscribed the runes correctly upon themselves, their pleasures would have been so incomplete that they would not be able to manage their daily life. Battle would become nigh impossible, their thoughts aimed only at remaining indoors with their husbands in endless copulation. You have a very clean mental space, I have to say. Like, if you ever get back in here due to, like, some unforeseen psychic monstrosity hitting you, you'd probably get off scot-free. That's good quality for a hunter. Nice going, rookie. Looks like you're waking up soon. A word of advice, if you don't see me, remember the pathway back to the village. That's probably where I'll be, warning the villagers of manhunt. Try not to get into any other Amazons. I'll see you on the other side, rookie. Good luck! So the good news is, we're still alive, and we are no longer dreaming. The bad news is, we may have fallen into a dream world, also known as Wonderland. Brace for impact when we get to the end of this tunnel. I'm just saying, it's going to hurt. Like, real bad, or not at all. Things don't make sense here. Here we are, the door to Wonderland, and beyond it, a wild world of imagination or something along those lines. However, we are off by miles. We aren't supposed to be here until the end of our journey, when our sanity is at its lowest. And due to this being some sort of deep psyche Wonderland, it's not the true Wonderland. So I've made it so that when you enter that door, you get sent back to your mindscape, the higher parts of your brain. And if you're wondering how I did that, just remember, I'm not actually here. I'm just your mind's physical manifestation of protection. Don't ask me why I manifested. You explain that to yourself. The main problem is you're going to have to figure out how to get out of the mindscape from that room. And the problem is you're probably going to be lured back into Dream Wonderland, as we will call it, by an entity known as Alice. She's a monster girl, so you should have no trouble, but she's a little bit tricky. So let's go over that. Alice is a fiend-type monster girl, and their family is the family of succubus. Their habitats are unknown, their natures are docile, and their diets is the essence of human men. The Alice is a mutation of the succubus, with a curiously innocent appearance. Alices are a subrace born from ordinary succubi on very rare occasions. It is exceedingly rare to encounter one. Despite being adult monsters of the succubus family, Alice gives the false impression of unblemished, wholesome ignorance. In fact, it is said that they do not even know that their sustenance is the essence of human men. However, though they are succubi who do not actively attack human men, and their temperaments seem to be docile, their appearance is deceiving. They follow their succubus instincts to appear before human men. As mentioned, they do not attack men in the way of most of monster kind. Instead, they cling to them playfully and unwittingly attempt to seduce them, depending on a faint seductive magic emitted from their bodies. After an extended period of time spent with an Alice, a man is likely to attack her and furnish her with his seed through sexual intercourse. Curiously, after orgasm, the Alice returns to a virginal state and loses all recollection of the act. Despite this, a faint unconscious memory is left in her body, an echo of the pleasure he gave her, the taste of his essence, her strong love and desire for him, as well as all the techniques and erogenous zones she became familiar with during their exchange. Nor does she forget any of the conversations they had. For example, if the man tells the Alice, "I love you," during sex, she'll remember his words and claim afterward, "You're my lover, dear brother." Thereafter, each time the two joins, the Alice's memories make her body more and more sensitive to pleasure as it unconsciously reenacts the techniques she learned previously. This allows her to extract an increased quantity of essence from the man. As her feelings for him increase, her innocent wish to give him her first time stays the same, though the manner in which it is enacted grows increasingly wild and vulgar. Through this process, the Alice remains forever an unstained and innocent monster, all while collecting essence and developing into an ever more powerful succubus who exudes stronger seductive magic and pleases a man in remarkable ways. Like the succubus proper, the Alice turns a man into an incubus over the course of repeated sexual encounters. Unlike the succubus, however, the Alice does not seize the man or abduct him to the monster realm. Even so, once the man has become an incubus, he is, to all intents and purposes, her slave, as his first actions will always be to protect her and give her his essence. Incidentally, Alices exhibit a strange fondness for rabbits. When an Alice sees a were-rabbit restlessly hopping around, the Alice will follow her. In most cases, upon becoming aware of the Alice's presence, the were-rabbit will turn about and make sport with her. This behavior has been observed many times without exception. The reason behind it, however, remains a mystery. The good news is that this little showcase here is actually your way of getting out. On the count of 3, I'm going to throw you in it, and you have to do your best to find the exit located in the habitat it's showcasing. I know that sounds a little confusing because there's different habitats you might encounter for different monsters when we do this multiple times, eventually. So do your best to find it. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, in you go! Well, I'm no doctor, but your physical condition is fine, just a few bumps and scratches. As far as your inner body ley lines, you should be able to use magic like normally, although I'm not entirely sure how your mental state is. You woke up screaming like a banshee something about Alice, me, and Wonderland. Why am I in your head anyways? That's a question for another day, actually. Let's leave that there for now. Because unfortunately, while you were away resting and going off into dreamland, I had to do some things to get us out of the Amazon situation, and now I'm not sure where we are. But I do have some good news. While I was tending to you while you were resting, I learned that your body really isn't normal. Let's make this simple. Your body is like a soulless vessel, but also a lump of clay. Whenever a soul takes prime control of your body will then in turn turn into the soul's preferred form. So because you have a constantly shifting body type, your body can't really be turned into a succubus, or can it be turned into an incubus? It also explains why whenever I look at you, you have this weird stare at me as if hundreds upon hundreds of souls are trying to learn from me. This does not make you immortal. You are still very mortal. You can fall down the stairs, hit the back of your head, and die. Or, die in glorious combat like a true hero, but, sometimes mistakes happen. That does pose the question of what happens if you do get affected by monster mana, and I'm not willing to risk my beloved trainee on some weird experiment, so let us go over the potentiality of the Alp. The Alp is a fiend-type monster girl, and they belong to the family of succubus. Their habitats are unknown, their natures are various, then lustful, and their diets consist of the essence of human men. The Alp is a variant of the succubus, and a highly unusual race that has no likeness to be found among monster kind. Alps originate as an incubi, i.e. men who undergo a mutation into female monsters. Under no ordinary circumstances does a human man turn into a monster. As stated before, no male monsters currently exist. An incubus is merely a human altered in nature by monster mana. Because human men produce essence indefinitely, regardless of how powerfully a monster suffuses a man with mana, he will continue to be a human. Alps come about when an incubus wishes deep in his heart to become a woman, or to be joined with a man. The monster mana that made him an incubus is normally used to improve his production of essence, but in this case, it destroys this very function. This strips him of his ability to produce essence and empties him of it. Monster mana pervades his body, and he soon finds that he is a monster. Even after he's become an Alp, his soul, his values, his memory, and personality remain those of the man he was. Only his body has changed. Though it has become completely that of a woman, he continues to perceive himself as a man. He is unaware of the urge to become a woman which transformed his body, or perhaps he buried it deep in his heart, pretending not to realize. Thus, he is shocked by his sudden transfiguration and experiences profound dysphoria. Then, in most cases, he cannot imagine lying with a man as a monster would. The very thought repulses him. Despite this, instincts of the monster begin to sprout in his mind and body and draw him toward and tempt him with the human men he scorns. His monster instincts swell inside him, and his driving hunger for essence becomes unbearable, urging him irresistibly to seek a man. Inevitably, he submits, still bent to distraction by his loathing and desire. He attacks and copulates with a man. His first experience of fierce pleasure as a female-bodied monster, incomparable to any he might have experienced as a human man, undoes the seams of his mind and causes him to move his hips faster. When the man's essence is released in the midst of the monster's ecstasy, the first taste of the rapture of femininity and the sweet savor of essence leave his soul in shambles, telling him only that he needs more of this man, that he must have more. Over the course of further days, in which the spirit of a man and the pleasure of a monster clash in his head and torment him, he is once again driven to lie with another man. The cycle repeats until eventually, still wholly perceiving himself to be a man, he drops all resistance to the formerly detestable thought of loving another man, sexually and otherwise, and begins to proactively seek the intoxication of intercourse and the delight of essence. Alps continue to interact normally with their male friends from before, even if they have fallen deeply in love with them after repeated bouts of intercourse. They are likely to seduce and copulate with them very casually, as if inviting a friend of the same sex to participate in a recreational activity. In this process, some Alps discover greater pleasure in becoming a woman. These Alps find that their bodies continue to grow more voluptuous and enticing, and their minds continue to become more feminine. Soon enough, they have matured into full-fledged Alps, more feminine than all other women, and more or less vicious than succubi. And so, that's why we're not gonna figure out what you will turn into. Because at the end of the day, we don't want another hunter being lost to the monster mana. And since our journey is going to be long from this point on, I don't know when the next time we're going to see Rex for repairs are going to be. And even if we did get repairs, my weapons are too broke to even be repaired. So, Rookie, I think it's finally time that I visit an old friend of mine up on the mountain and pick up my old shields again. Because do you know how awkward it is to go up to some blacksmith and go, "Hey, I want dual-wielding shields"? Don't ask about my fighting style. I'm very defensive. Yes, I am sure that this is the right cave. Have I ever been wrong about a cave being the wrong cave? You better wipe that smug grin off your face. Besides, Iroga's cave is easy to find. It's the only cave where you can hear the sound of a hammer hitting an anvil, only broken by pauses, and then occasional crying, and then back to the hammering. She's not very confident in herself, because if she starts crying, she then has to mop the floor, and I don't think you want to watch a crying Cyclops mop a floor with her own tears. You know what? You're off the hook for this one. You can wait outside, enjoy the nice scenery, go over your notes. I'll be back in a bit, and if I'm not back within an hour or two, go ahead and set up camp without me. It'll be a long day before I'm back out again. Alright, see you whenever I come back out. Hey, Iroga, you in here? I kinda need you to do things for me.
Uncles, I didn't expect to see you anytime soon.
Well, I got myself a rookie and we're going on another journey, but I feel something's going to go awry, so I've come to pick up my shields. You still have them?
About that, they got a little rusty, and when I tried moving them, they turned to dust.
Hey, calm down, don't start crying on me. We can always make another pair. We have the blueprint still, right?
But the materials that you need are hard to get by, right? So, we wouldn't be able to.
Don't worry. No trouble for me. What's a few more stops along the way on this journey. I guess my order will have to be the creation of the new gauntlets, and I will pay in the full materials list. And also a night with the rookie, just to cover any loose ends. I'm going to head out now and discuss this deal with the aforementioned rookie, so I'll catch you later, Roga. Hey, I'm back! So, I've got some news, but let me explain to you how Cyclops works first, before we get into what I just discussed in there. The Cyclops is an X-Giant demi-human type monster girl, and they belong to the family of X-Giants. Their habitats are the depths of mountains, their natures are peaceful, lacking in emotion, and their diets are omnivorous. The Cyclops is a monster quite different from most others, as Cyclopes possess a single eye and blue skin. They live quietly deep in the mountains. They are classified as an X-Giant, but since coming under the influence of the current overlord, they have shrunk to roughly the same size of a human to facilitate intercourse with human men. It is believed that the Cyclopes were once part of the divine family, but were cast out by certain gods who detested their single eye, whereupon the Cyclopes became monsters. Thus, they are extraordinarily powerful, and the influence of the Overlord was not sufficient to turn the single eye that sets them apart into two. They tend to be fairly subdued in character. Monsters of few words and few expressions. It is often difficult to tell what they are thinking. Cyclopes typically work as blacksmiths and distribute the weapons they forge to monsters who have contact with humans. Their work is sound, and it is common for famed warriors and heroes to seek them out in order to have them make them weapons. Unlike most monsters, Cyclopes do not make efforts to interact with humans outside of work. Even if they spot men, they almost never attack them. One possible explanation for this behavior is that their history has caused them to feel inferior due to their single eye. Cyclopes must nevertheless procreate in order to sustain their race, and so they will appear near human settlements occasionally to ask passing men to spend a single night with her in exchange for a Cyclops sword. When a man wakes after such a night, he finds that the Cyclops is gone, leaving only the promised weapon behind. The blade is always of the finest quality, and he who wields it often rises to glory as a valorous warrior. The Cyclops' handling of the man's other weapon is also of high quality. In many cases, the hero is enchanted by the finely honed technique and loyal dedication she bestowed upon him, and after his acts of valor, will quietly disappear from public view. It is speculated that such men now live happily deep in the mountains with Cyclopes. You probably want an explanation of the discrepancies between the book and Aroga. Well, that's simple. The book only states what happens when they're going on base instincts, and also the common trends that are seen between monster girls of the same breeds. You remember what they told you in training. We want to make peaceful cohabitation with monster girls either through domestication or integration into human settlements. Because despite humanity being at the brink of destruction, we don't want to bring another species to the same destruction. Anyways, you're up for the night. I'm gonna set up camp here and figure out where our next destination is, because we got some things to collect. Take it all in, rookie. The sweet salty air, the sound of crashing waves. It's been a while since I've actually been to the beach, and yet I can still recall what she wore. Anyways, Iroga sent us here to find something called a Poseidon scale deep in the ocean. She said it has to do with something about making the metal flow as freely as water. I have no idea, so we're going to have to barter with a mermaid and have her sing us a song for us. Specifically one that'll allow us to enter the water and not have to fear about drowning. For some reason, the ocean has this weird property where the deeper you go, magic sorta just fizzles out. If you aren't using deep sea magic, that is. But I digress. We're at the beach. We should be spending our time relaxing, going swimming, having a cookout. Speaking of, help me set up this grill. I'll lecture you about the mermaid, and then afterwards we can have a nice cooked meal. The mermaid is a Piscine-type monster girl, and they belong to the family of mermaids. Their habitats are the ocean. Their natures are mild, and their diets are omnivorous. They prefer ocean-based items. The mermaid is a Piscine monster that lives in the sea. Mermaids have an unusually gentle temperament for a monster, and rarely attack humans aggressively. It is said that most of these creatures are romantic at heart, and will wait unceasingly for their husbands to appear. Mermaids come to beaches and reefs to sing their beautiful songs, thinking only of their princes. Their voices are tinged with magic, and so human men who hear them are captivated and follow their song helplessly. This marks the start of a faithful union between the mermaid and her prince. Though mermaids do not aggressively attack men as other monsters do, once they have brought men into their hands, they copulate with them tenaciously, enchanting them with their beautiful bodies so that they are enthralled too deeply to even want to escape. The blood of mermaids is capable of prolonging life drastically. Scholars believe that mermaids correct the imbalance between the lifespan of their human partners and their own naturally longer lifespan by having their husbands drink their blood. As can be expected, mermaid blood is high demand among humans who long for immortality, as well as monsters who wish to similarly prolong the lives of their husbands. There's another member of the mermaid family called the Marrow, from which humans often seek mermaid blood, for though their blood is widely available among monsters, it is very hard for humans to come by. Though the mermaid pictured on the left is not wearing anything over her lower body, her genitals are still obscured by scales. This is the typical state of mermaids, yet when they are ready to mate with a man, they magically remove these scales to reveal genitals positioned roughly as they would be on a human woman. Given the policy of the current overlord, who asserts that her subjects seek blissful copulation with human men, it can be hardly imagined that mermaids would lay their eggs before having them inseminated, as ordinary fish do. Mermaids have a threat level of non-existent. They pose no threat to humans at all. That being said, if you do encounter a mermaid causing troubles for humans, a good pair of earplugs would go a long way. And with that, the mermaid is now covered, and we can finally spend some time at the beach. Ever since leaving the world of fairies, it's only been trouble after trouble. I mean, the dark elf got me good in the back, you got hit pretty hard by the Amazoness and got trapped in your mind for a few days, and now we're on some grand journey just to repair some of my shields. So until you see a mermaid, I'm gonna be sleeping in that chair over there. Wake me up when something happens. Alright, have fun, rookie. I have seen that exact same sea anemone 5 times. I guarantee we are lost at this point. Everything looks the same down here. It's all just sand, coral, bunch of rocks. I'm pretty sure that fish was looking at me with lustful eyes. If I ever see that red crustacean again, who is singing in the Jamaican accent, I'm turning him into my next meal. If we go back to the surface, we can find our way back to land, restart our journey from step 1. Step 1 being finding a mermaid to re-sing us the spell of water breathing and whatnot. I mean, there's always plan B that takes several years to accomplish, where I sell you off to a sea marrow, we wait for you to have kids, and eventually I tell you long enough so that when your kid gets her red cap, we find Poseidon, we can get the Poseidon scale. Sound like a plan? No, didn't really think you want to do that one. Right, you don't know about the whole cap ceremony involving the marrows. Pretty sure it's our next entry here, and the book does go over it, so... I mean, might as well do plan A for now. I'll have to recheck the book. I left it on land because I didn't want it to get wet and destroyed, so... Let's reconvene when we find shore. You're still breathing, rookie? Hey, come on, get up, get up, get up. There you go. Yeah, you're still with me. Can't have you dying here now. So I forgot what we could just do is we can just ask a sea marrow to take us to the temple where they do the red cap ceremony, and we can talk to a sea bishop there. And then we can ask them about where we can find Poseidon to get the Poseidon scale. It's the perfect plan, and I keep forgetting that's a thing we can do. Let me just run over and get the book, and let's go over the sea marrow. The marrow is a Piscine-type monster girl, and they belong to the family of mermaids. Their habitats are the ocean, their natures are mild and lustful, and their diets are omnivorous. They're ocean-based. The marrow is a variant of the mermaid that lives in the ocean and is distinguished by a red cap and pink hair. Not only do marrows look like mermaids, but they are similarly friendly towards humans. However, in contrast to the more reserved mermaid, the marrow is considered the most lustful race of the mermaid family. A marrow who spots a man she likes will use her voluptuous body to seduce him and then mate. The pink color of a marrow's hair is believed to symbolize the carnal fixation of her mind. Her chief interests are sensual intrigues and copulation with men. She is also fond of furtively observing the sexual dalliances of other monsters and listening to their tales of love and debauchery. It must be said, however, that her favorite thing is spending time with the one she loves, preferably in a sexual manner. When a marrow is in love, she has eyes only for her lover, and her mind can only think of his sex. Considering her sexual prowess and gorgeous appearance, it is likely that her man feels the same way. Unmarried marrows always wear caps until they find their husband. When a marrow comes across a man she likes, she seeks his hand in marriage by handing him her cap. The cap is imbued with the protection of Poseidon, a great sea deity, and contains mana necessary for her to live in the ocean. When she gives up her cap, she loses her magical power, whereupon she can hardly even swim. However, she has her husband's essence to replenish her mana and is thereafter entirely dependent on him. Giving away her cap is a gesture to indicate the depth of her love and her desire to never be apart. When a new marrow is born, she is given a new cap by Poseidon and the sea bishops, who serve Poseidon. The magic in this cap is provided by the mother. Each time a marrow bears a child, the husband must supply his wife with a large quantity of essence that she can use to gather the magic necessary for the cap. Like mermaids, Meros have mermaid blood, which drastically prolongs the life of those who drink it. It is prized among monsters for its ability to lengthen the life of one's husband, and it is procured mostly from Meros. It is said that Meros often use their blood to barter for drugs and ornaments possessed by other monsters, and that they are zealous enough for other monsters' tales of trysts to offer their blood in exchange for just a story or two. This makes mermaid blood quite widely available among monsters, despite its scarcity among humans. The blood of Meros has two effects different from a mermaid's. Perhaps due to a unique characteristic of Mero mana, the blood turns pink after a time. It also has a secondary effect on men, altering their character to become more lustful. And so a Mero's threat level is non-existent. They pose no threat to humans at all. Although if you fall in love with one, you may want to start learning how to breathe underwater. And that is how you deal with a Mero. And I use the word deal loosely. It has also come to my attention that we could probably just ask any monster girl where a temple is. Or even better, we can just ask them where Poseidon is. I've been doing this for so long, I forgot we can just ask people, like, normally. The hunter mindset is really dangerous. You gotta be careful with this, rookie. I'll just let myself out. I'm going back in the water. Ah, those were some good times. What do you mean, how do I know about the parts I wasn't there for? I was always there, I think. Mostly. It doesn't matter anyways. What matters now is that since you've gone through 50 whole adventures and 50 whole monster girls, you technically are classified as a hunter. Now, I wouldn't say full-fledged because there's like 200 and more to go through, but 50 is good enough for you to be classified as an actual hunter. So hey, you did it! And depending on if you're just starting your journey, you're on the end of your journey, or you're somewhere in between, the guild hereby authorizes you to take a break. Go lounge around your house, go talk to friends, go talk to family, date a monster girl or something. Please, just take a break. We've been doing this for so long. You need it. I need it. You need it more. But please, remember to stay safe when you're out on the field. And good hunting, my rookies. I'll see you all soon. And thank you for joining me on this journey so far.